Chapter 3382. Yi Qing Luo. Jealous over this? My Xian is incredible. Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched. Oh, perhaps he's back to seek revenge for today. DMO Xian pinched her face again. Yi Qing Luo changed the topic again. Let's leave this place first and see what the Palace of Darkness is trying to do. A group of people walked out of the tomb. This time, Yi Qing Luo walked out of the tomb without any obstruction. The illusionary land also slowly dissipated into the air following Ghost King's departure. Yi Qing Luo discovered that this was an extremely ordinary barren mountain, whereas the surroundings were scattered with corpses. Corpses which were all dressed in Palace of Darkness uniform. This place was indeed Palace of Darkness's trap. Luckily, everyone in the world group had rushed over in time. After leaving the barren mountain, Yi Qing Luo realized that what Yan Xiao Yi said about the great battle which East Continent had no way to resist was absolutely not an exaggeration at all. Now, even with the help of various powerhouses from various continents, they were unable to change the current situation, because Yi Qing Luo saw the sky above Jade Dome City as it was an oppressive darkness. Faintly, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The most shocking thing was, in the sky, a huge black hole appeared. That black hole was at least half the size of Jade Dome City. From that black hole, groups after groups of dead corpse puppets kept walking out. They were all defective goods, but there were too many of them, wave after wave, and it was still increasing continuously. No wonder. Even if the 4 continents joined forces, they still wouldn't be able to deal with it. After all, the other party was a monster, a tireless monster. And they were human. In front of this increasing number of monsters which could not be killed at all, they would eventually deplete their profound energy, and deplete their stamina. Looking at the huge black hole in the sky, Yan Xiao Yi and the others were stunned. What's going on? Before we went to look for you, we didn't see this black hole at all. Yi Qing Luo's expression turned ugly as her slender brows furrowed as she looked at the black hole in the sky, sizing it up for some time. She pursed her lips. Let's go back to the palace first. On the way back, Yi Qing Luo tugged at DMO Xian's sleeve and asked in a low voice, Xian, that black hole should be a large-scale teleportation array secret art. Palace of Darkness is so high-profile, obviously they're not afraid of attracting the attention of the upper realm or the balanced historian. Which means to say, Palace of Darkness is already fully prepared. DMO Xian's expression was solemn. Qing Wu is still active in the upper realm. She will find out the person behind the Palace of Secluded Darkness. Yi Qing Luo was slightly stunned as she recalled that earlier, after Ghost King disappeared, the Palace Lord of Secluded Darkness Palace had disappeared along with the Land of Illusion. You know that the Palace Master of the Secluded Darkness Palace isn't the mastermind? At most, he can only be regarded as a chess piece. Mentioning the Palace Lord of the Secluded Palace, DMO Xian's tone was filled with some disdain. But he can become the Palace Lord of the Secluded Palace on the surface. That means that his relationship with the person behind the scenes is not shallow. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased. I somehow feel that the Misty Palace Lord seems to know me. There's a familiar feeling. Before he could finish, her chin was propped up by the man. She raised her eyes and met with the man's alluring peach blossom eyes. His eyes were sparkling and extremely charming. No matter if you're familiar or not, he's not someone you need to know, so you're not allowed to think about him. All right, handsome man trap. She admitted it. When the group of people rushed to the palace. Chapter 3383. On seeing Yi Qing Luo, East Wave Monarch went up to them in delight. Overlord, Madam Emperor, are you both all right? Yi Qing Luo shook her head. How's the battle situation now? The East Wave Sovereign sighed and shook his head. This time, it's obvious that their combat power is completely different from last time. It could be said that the battle we won last time was just a warm-up before the next battle. The Palace of Gloomy Shadow's goal might be to test the East Water Continent's strength first, because they know that we've invited you and D Zune as reinforcements. But I'm more inclined to think that Secluded Darkness Palace's move is to first heavily injure East Continent's vitality, then invade East Continent in one go. Yiqing Luo nodded her head. With the way the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was, she was also leaning towards the latter. Then now, the powerhouses and cultivators from the 4 continents have all joined the battle line. Over on the side of Secluded Darkness Palace. Are they still pursuing them relentlessly? Yiqing Luo continued asking. The East Wave Monarch's face was full of worry. Madam, you saw it too. I don't know how the black hole above Jade Sky City came about. There are so many monsters, there's nothing we can do. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips tightly as she looked at Diamo Xian beside her. After exchanging glances with him, Yiqing Luo held the glower flame fan in her hand tightly. I'll go over to take a look at the situation first. We must win this battle. Otherwise, not only will the East Continent be destroyed, I'm afraid the entire Nirvana realm will suffer. Perhaps it was because of this reason. Only then would the 4 continents choose to unite. The East Wave Sovereign's eyes were filled with hope. I'll leave everything to you, heroes. Yiqing Luo, Diamo Xian and the rest swiftly arrived at the battlefield. In other words, it was the periphery of the main city of the Jade Dome sect. In the surroundings, the profound practitioners from the various great forces of the various continents looked warily at the black hole in the sky. He was also guarding against sneak attacks from the Dark Abyss Palace. The entire battlefield was in chaos. When he saw Yiqing Luo and Diamo Xian's figures, everyone recognized him at first glance. The World Group's brothers rushed over anxiously. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo nodded towards them and immediately raised her head to look at the black hole. When did it appear? That black hole was surging with a frightening evil aura. Groups after groups of undead puppets came one after another. Rupan answered with a pale face. About 10 minutes ago. Xian, let's go take a look first and see if we can find a chance to seal that large-scale teleportation array. Yiqing Luo glanced sideways at Diamo Xian. Diamo Xian nodded. Rupan pulled her arm. Madam Qing Luo, this is too dangerous. It's okay, Xian is here. Yiqing Luo smiled at Rupan. If we don't seal up the teleportation array, even if Xian and I join in and exterminate wave after wave of undead puppets, it would be of no use. Everyone in the world group exchanged glances with one another. In the end, he said worriedly, then you guys must be careful. Yiqing Luo gave them a reassuring smile. Following that, she held Diamo Xian's hand and both of them moved towards the horizon. The two of them were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, he was already close to the black hole. The closer they got, Yiqing Luo could feel that gust of chilly wind blowing towards her. The closer they got, Yiqing Luo felt that this black hole was much bigger than what she had imagined. In addition, a large number of undead corpse puppets came out in full force. Chapter 3384. Perhaps he sensed Yiqing Luo's discomfort. Diamo Xian held her in his arms with one arm. The elegant sandalwood scent dispersed the smell of the dead corpses. Beside her ear was a man's deep and magnetic voice. How are you? Can you still hold on? Yiqing Luo shook her head in his arms. No matter, it's not the first time I'm in close contact with these puppets, don't worry. Diamo Xian didn't say a word. He only raised his hand and rubbed her head. No matter how ugly the dead corpses in front of her were, no matter how dangerous the surroundings were, it was impossible for them to survive. Yiqing Luo didn't have any other feelings. Her heart was filled with sweetness. As for this official battle with the Palace of Darkness, it was a battle between the Palace of Darkness and Palace of Darkness. And strangely, she felt extremely confident. Perhaps it was because he was by her side, so she could act according to her own thoughts without any worries. Then she could fearlessly walk on the path of the strong. She raised her head from Dmo Xian's arms and looked at the black mass of dead corpses. Yiqing Luo no longer had that disgusting feeling from before. Her mind had regained its original clarity. She immediately carried out the fastest and strictest observation on the surrounding environment and the battlefield. Her vision swept past the battlefield. At the same time, her mind was searching for ways to deal with it. Suddenly, her gaze fixed on an extremely inconspicuous corner outside Jade Dome Sect's city. Outside the city, there were 3 circles of Palace of Darkness disciples surrounding it, as well as numerous magical beasts and flying beasts howling. Especially now, the appearance of the large-scale teleportation array gave Palace of Darkness the upper hand. At this moment, the Palace of Darkness disciples were excitedly cheering and waving their arms. But there was only that inconspicuous corner. The indistinct 3 figures weren't like the Palace of Darkness disciples, displaying an extremely excited feeling. But that kind of feeling as though they were isolated from this world, as though everything had nothing to do with them. Those 3 figures, 2 of them were extremely tall, and in the middle stood a slightly shorter person. He was dressed in Palace of Darkness uniform. Just one look and Yiqing Luo felt that those 3 people looked familiar. Ah Xian, look over there. Yiqing Luo tugged at Dmo Xian's sleeve and pointed to that corner. Dmo Xian took a look and his voice sank slightly. The energy from the transmission array is coming from their side. Their eyes met. Then they nodded at each other. With a leap, the 2 of them rushed towards the corner one after the other. The 2 of them were extremely fast. Moreover, it was all unexpected. Until he was close to the 3 people, the 3 of them didn't even have time to react. He could only feel 2 incomparably cold energies approaching him. The next moment, the short man in the middle was blocked by a red figure. The weapon in the girl's hand was pressed against the man's neck. As for the other 2, they were strangled by a large palm. Oh! The taller man struggled in disbelief. He could feel the power gripping his throat. It was so strong and violent that it felt like it was going to shatter his internal organs. Fear welled up from the bottom of his heart. How could he not be afraid? Both of them were being strangled by the purple-robed man with one hand. They couldn't even struggle free. It's you guys. When Yiqing Luo got nearer, she recognized these 3 people's faces. The one whose glower flame fan was pressed against her throat was a lady. Yiqing Luo had seen her before. Her name was Yu Nu. And the ones whose throats were being strangled by Dmo Xian were Yu Han and Yu Ji. Chapter 3385. 3 Nether of the Ghost Hand 5 Nether. Who would have thought that it would be them? 3 Nether could be said to be a core figure of the Palace of Gloom. However, if I remember correctly, Ghost Hand 5 Nether was not a member of the Gloomy Palace. Like Zhu Wuxin, he should be a partner of Gloomy Palace. Furthermore, compared to the Palace Master of the Nether Palace that he had met in the Land of Illusions, her actual power might be even greater. She speculated based on what Yuan had told her. Above this Ghost Hand 5 Nether, there should be someone called Venerable. That Venerable one was the big boss behind the scenes of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. He was also the big boss's partner. There was no way to know Yiqing Luo. When Yu Nu saw the person who was threatening her life, she gritted her teeth and spat out 3 words. Under the black robe, that pair of malicious eyes stared coldly at Yiqing Luo, as though he couldn't wait to dismember Yiqing Luo into 1,000 pieces. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. Tisk, long time no see, Miss Yu Nu missed me so much? Yu Nu's eyes were filled with ruthlessness. Let go of me. It wasn't easy to catch you. How could I possibly let you go? Yiqing Luo grinned as she shook her head. The dagger which was pressed against her neck was pushed closer. Yu Han, who was clutched by the neck by Dmo Xian and her legs were suspended in the air, her face flushed red as she struggled to spit out a word. Yiqing Luo, you dare? Don't hurt her. Oh, you're really infatuated. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she gave an evil smile. I'm someone who has never done a losing deal. Since you hope that I won't hurt your beloved ghost girl, then you have to use something to exchange for it. He was cold and angry, and because of the strength of his neck, he couldn't breathe. His feminine face had long since turned red, and he had lost his usual handsomeness. Hearing Yiqing Luo's shameless words, he became even angrier. Yiqing Luo expressed, she just liked it when others were annoyed by her but couldn't defeat her. Not satisfied? If she was not convinced, she could go and find a thigh that was even thicker than her thigh. Yiqing Luo's mouth was provoking three Nether's bottom line. His gaze floated to the sky above Jade Dome City. As expected, because the three underworlds were being controlled, the huge black hole in the sky was gradually shrinking. The undead puppets were still coming out one after another, but as the hole shrank, the number of them decreased. In the blink of an eye, the black hole had already disappeared from the sky. Yiqing Luo retracted her vision and looked at San Yu, who was in front of her. These three people, sure enough, it was the person who created the large-scale teleportation circle. For the Palace of Darkness to entrust such an important matter to the three Nethers, who were only cooperating with them, from this, one could see the status of three Nether in the Palace of Tenebrous Gloom. From this, it could be seen how much Abyss Palace acknowledged three Nether's strength. However, although her and Dmo Xian's appearance had sealed the large-scale transmission. However, during this period of time, the undead corpse puppets that walked out had already become a black mass. They almost surrounded the entire Jade Dome City with 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. There were at least 10,000 undead puppets, not to mention, there were also thousands of semi-finished undead puppets. Even if Tang Beiyuan managed to forge a weapon that could deal with the undead puppets, it wouldn't be enough. It would be very taxing to deal with so many undead corpse puppets. Moreover, the weapons that were refined were not enough. Summon all these undead puppets back. Yiqing Luo threatened in a low voice. Chapter 3386. Yiqing Luo's face was calm. Oh, since we can't turn the tables, then let's drag you to hell with us. As she spoke, her slender jade-like fingers moved slightly. The fan handle moved closer to Ghost Maiden's neck. The sharp blade cut through iron like mud. Just a slight touch. Blood started to ooze out along Ghost Maiden's neck. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into an evil smile as her tone was filled with ridicule. Your skin is well maintained, fair and glossy. Coupled with this seductive red, don't worry, it's especially beautiful. Saying that, she nodded her head hard, expressing her guarantee. Ghost Maiden's features were twisted from the pain. But she was tough and didn't make a sound. But Ghost Maiden's bones were tough. But someone would feel heartache. Yuhan's peripheral vision swept past that red smear on Ghost Maiden's neck, and his eyes seemed to be covered by this smear of red. He gritted his teeth as he roared angrily, Yiqing Luo? You dare to hurt Ghost Maiden, I want your life. Yiqing Luo's face was calm as she turned to look at Yuhan and spoke calmly. Didn't she say that we can't turn the tables? Then what do I not dare to hurt? At most, we'll die together. Following that, her eyes were filled with ridicule as she looked at Yuhan, whose face was flushed red. You can't even save yourself and you want my life? Yuhan was flustered. The more angry he was, the tighter his throat became. He continued to feel the breath of life leaving him. He opened his eyes wide as he struggled unwillingly. But where did he have any energy left? He wasn't willing to die. He couldn't bear to die. So you three Nether need to be clear of the situation. Now. I'm the one in control. If you want to live, or if you want to protect the people you want to protect, you can only listen to me obediently. Three Nether's body was extremely tense. But there was no way to refute this fact. Ghost Maiden couldn't even struggle free from Yiqing Luo. Not to mention, the other two were able to struggle free from the Overlord. What on earth do you want? Yu-Ji, who had been silent for a long time, shouted coldly. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she smiled. You should be very clear what I want. Impossible. We are only responsible for opening the entrance of the teleportation portal. We don't control the corpse puppets, so we can't do what you want to do." Yiqing Luo's fingers moved again. "Oh, if you can't do it, then what's the use of keeping you?" "Yu Han. Damn it. Threatening at the slightest disagreement. Can't you come up with something new?" "Yiqing Luo. Since threats are useful, why must you use your brain to think of new tricks? Do you have nothing better to do?" "It's not impossible." Yuji's voice was still calm. After all, from the moment he was captured, he had not struggled at all. If he could preserve his strength, he would naturally not feel as uncomfortable as Yuhan. Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she looked at Yuji. "Tell me about it. Let me go, and I will take the corpse puppet away from the East Wave continent," Yuji said. He said I, not we. Yuhan and Yu Nu naturally understood the deeper meaning of his word. Yuhan immediately shouted, "Yuji! What do you mean?" This roar, that tightness on his neck became even more unbearable. He wanted to cough, but he couldn't. The hand which was strangling his neck, that strength, seemed to know clearly what he could endure. It wouldn't let him be strangled to death, but it wouldn't let him feel better. Yuji was expressionless as he looked at Yiqing Luo. "With them as hostages in your hands, I will not escape by myself." At this moment, it wasn't only Yuhan who was angry. Chapter 3387. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she looked at San Yu with a smile which didn't look like a smile. "TSK. Didn't you say, did they, the Ghost Hands 5 Nether, grow up together? Even if there were collisions between missions. However, they were still brothers who had gone through life and death together. He was betrayed so easily. Wouldn't his conscience hurt? It really was a plastic brotherhood." Yiqing Luo squinted her long and narrow eyes as she looked at Yuji smilingly, raising up one finger and shaking it. "But, I don't believe you." Yuji's expression finally had a slight change. He furrowed his brows and tried his best to remain calm. "What do I have to do to convince you? No matter what, I won't believe it." Yiqing Luo replied decisively and smiled sweetly. A pair of curved, enchanting eyes seemed to be embellished with vast stars, dazzling and dazzling. However, no matter how dazzling it was, in the eyes of the three Nether, it was a light that could take their lives. Yuji's expression instantly changed. Yiqing Luo laughed again. "Rather than trusting you, I'd rather let him." Yiqing Luo pointed at Yuhan. Go give the order to let the corpse puppets leave, and Yu Nu, be the hostages." She paused for a moment and lowered her eyes to look at the woman she had subdued. "Of course, the most important thing is, Miss Yu Nu will be the hostage." Yuhan's expression froze. She gritted her teeth. "I'll be the hostage. Let Yu Nu go." Yiqing Luo turned her head over and blinked her eyes. Her eyes flickered, showing her innocence. No. I don't believe her either." The anger on Spectral Maiden's face grew even more. "Yiqing Luo, stop trying to drive a wedge between us. You are all meat on the chopping board, waiting to be slaughtered by me. Do I need to sow discord?" Yiqing Luo's tone was filled with ridicule. "I just don't believe in your characters." He let Yuji leave. Yuji would definitely disregard the lives of Yuhan and Yu Nu, and directly let the undead puppets invade Jade Dome City. Let Nethergirl leave? That was even more impossible. Don't be fooled by Yu Nu's love for Yuhan. But from Ghost's eyes, Yiqing Luo understood. Once the Nethergirl was rescued, it was impossible for her to fail her mission just to save Yuhan. Yuin had once said every member of the Ghost Hands 5 Nether had their own ambitions. They all wanted to surpass each other and become highly regarded by the Martial Highness. Therefore, the only candidate was Yuhan. Because Yuhan's feelings for Yu Nu were serious, Yuhan would never abandon Yu Nu. On this point, Yiqing Luo was extremely certain. She curled her lips, and her long and narrow eyes flickered with a hint of evil. "You don't have the right to choose, so just answer me directly. Are you going to die, or are you going to take away the corpse puppets? Yuhan glanced at Yu Nu. His pupils contracted when he saw Yu Nu's fair neck soaked in blood. Yuhan gritted her teeth. Fine. I promise you. Take the undead corpse puppets away. Yiqing Luo nodded with a satisfied smile. That's more like it. Obedient babies can live longer. His tone was as if he was teasing his pet. Ah Xian. Yiqing Luo took a look at DMO Xian. DMO Xian loosened his grip. Her cold body fell to the ground. Totally defenseless, his body crashed onto the hard ground. He groaned a few times as he panted heavily. That flushed red face looked as though he was going to stop breathing at any moment. Chapter 3388. Yiqing Luo's clear and melodious voice was extremely sweet, with a hint of a young lady's softness. But the words that came out of her mouth were extremely cold. Oh right, there's more. After one incense stick of time, if I don't see you retreating out of East Continent, I will continue to cut off a part of her body. Pausing for a moment, the dagger in her hand made a few strokes on Yu Nu's body, until all the parts on her body are cut off. I will wrap up her corpse as a gift and give it to you. You. Yiqing Luo. Yuhan angrily rebuked. Cough, 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 cough. After the loud roar, the throat, which had yet to recover, gave a series of hurried coughs. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as she gave an innocent smile. Let me remind you now. The countdown starts. Yuhan clutched his neck as he panted heavily, as he stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. The current him, where was the previous cold as ice, Ice Prince's temperament? He struggled to climb up from the ground, as his body was on the verge of collapsing. How can I believe you, that after I bring away the corpse puppets you will let Yu Nu go? You can only believe me. Yiqing Luo replied with a smile. Yuhan clenched his fist. His face was filled with anger. You'd better not lie to me. If anything happens to Yu Nu, even if the heavens and earth are destroyed, I will drag you down with me. Yuhan gritted his teeth as he spat out a sentence as he turned around and left. Yiqing Luo clicked her tongue as she teased. Ayaya, what a touching love, destroying the heavens and earth, dragging me down with you. Ah Xian, I'm so scared. I'm here. DMO Xian knew that Yiqing Luo was intentionally teasing Yuhan, but he still played along as he spoke his mind. He was here. He would not let anyone bully his Lil Luo. Destroying the heavens and earth? Dragging Lil Luo down with him? He Yuhan was worthy? DMO Xian's peerless face revealed a faint smile. That smile did not reach his eyes. It seemed as though he was mocking something. Sensing the man's unfriendly expression, Yiqing Luo mentioned Yu Nu as she smiled and leaned towards DMO Xian's side, leaning her head on his shoulder. Amen, with you around, I have nothing to fear. After Yuhan left, the surrounding disciples of the Abyss Palace looked at the two of them with a dumbfounded expression. Their faces were filled with vigilance as they gripped their weapons tightly. His eyes were filled with anger and murderous intent. However, no one dared to act rashly. Without any explanation, he rushed over and captured their king. They still had a hostage in their hands. How would they dare to go up? Everyone in the Nether Tenebrous Palace didn't know that the Yu family's backing was comparable to their palace master. Moreover, they were not under the control of their palace master. If he suffered even the slightest injury, if the palace master blamed them, what should they do? Furthermore, the ones who dashed into the crowd which was surrounded by the secluded palace's disciples and captured San Yu were the Overlord and Yiqing Luo. Even if the Overlord and Yiqing Luo didn't have any hostages, they didn't dare to go up. Hence, they could only stare at each other, paying attention to what the Overlord and Yiqing Luo were up to. Then, Dizun released Yuhan. Then, Yuhan left with a face full of anger. What's going on? Had they reached an agreement on some deal? Just as the secluded palace's disciples were in a daze. Chapter 3389. Secluded Palace's disciples. They were in an advantageous position now. There were so many corpse puppets around. The Overlord and Yi Qing Luo were trapped in their territory once again. Even if they couldn't hurt them, they could also hold them back and not let them join the battle. There was totally no need to retreat, right? But no matter how the secluded palace's disciples were howling in their hearts, they could only listen to the higher-ups' commands. The higher-ups said to retreat. They could only retreat obediently. Hence, outside Jade Dome City, the majestic scene of 3 levels and 3 levels outside slowly disappeared. Jade Dome City finally saw the radiance of sunlight again. The happiest ones were the various powerhouses' cultivators who were guarding on top of the city walls. They thought that a great battle was about to begin. And it was a great battle that they might not be able to win. They had not expected. The enemy actually gave up? The various powerhouses' representatives' eyes were filled with stars, as though they were looking at the gods they worshipped, looking at the 2 big Buddhas who were surrounded by the secluded palace's disciples. They were indeed the Overlord and the future Madam. So intelligent. Capturing the ringleader first in order to capture the bandits was played to the fullest. Look, this was obviously a certain victory situation for the secluded palace. But because they had captured the 3 people from the secluded palace could only choose to retreat obediently. Not long later, the corpse puppets had all retreated to a distance of 100 meters away from Jade Dome City. There were only thousands of secluded palace's disciples left who were surrounding Jade Dome City. They were still surrounding Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo. Looking at the corpse puppets retreating, their hearts were filled with apprehension. Should they continue to guard Dmo Xian and Yi Qing Luo, looking for a suitable opportunity to save the 2 Madam Youths? Or should they retreat together with the corpse puppets? Heh! I didn't expect that Yu Han, that idiot, really cared about you. After Yu Ji saw this scene, a deep glint circulated in his dark eyes. Yu Nu's eyes were filled with viciousness, and when she heard Yu Ji's voice, she stared at him angrily. Do you think everyone is as cold-blooded and heartless as you? I'm cold-blooded and heartless? Are you sure that if the person who left earlier was you would really abide by the conditions and let the corpse puppets retreat? Yu Ji shot a scornful glance at her. That gaze seemed to be mocking her. They were all whores, so why did they have to pretend to be pure? Dark Girl's expression changed, and she turned her head away. Don't put me in the same category as you. The argument between the 2. Yi Qing Luo naturally heard everything. However, her thin brows did not relax because of the retreat of the corpse puppet. On the contrary, her eyebrows furrowed even more. No, something was wrong. Something was very wrong. You Palace of Darkness had really gone all out this time. Clearly, he had made up his mind to conquer the East Continent. It was impossible for him to give up so easily. How could it be? The evacuation went so smoothly, as expected. Yi Qing Luo's intuition was right. In the next instant, a huge tornado descended from the sky. All of a sudden, the entire Jade Dome City was filled with sand and stones, the earth quaked and the mountains shook. The sky was also covered with dark clouds, forming a dense mass of darkness. From time to time, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, crisscrossing each other. The retreating undead corpse puppets also stopped their retreat in the hurricane. Bang, bang, bang! A deafening explosion was heard. Following that, the ground started to collapse. Jade Dome City also started to collapse. Chapter 3390. Everyone, calm down. Calm down first. Let's see what His Majesty has to say. Some people tried their best to maintain order. The representatives of the major forces and the soldiers participating in this battle all had different thoughts in their mind. It was just that he didn't have the time to express it. The ground of Jade Dome City cracked open, making it hard for everyone to even stand. Immediately afterward, the undead corpse puppets that had retreated 100 meters away actually began to surge towards them from all directions again. This unforeseen event. Even the disciples of the Dark Nether Palace were stunned. What was going on? Why was there another plot twist? Everyone immediately looked towards Dmo Xian and Yiqing Luo. These two people were the backbone of their group. Everything depended on their attitude. As for Yiqing Luo, who was clasped tightly in Dmo Xian's arms, her expression was calm as her eyes were fixated on the direction where the hurricane came from. Dmo Xian's expression was the same. He was so calm, as if he had already expected this. It could be said that he had expected this, and it could be said that he had expected it, because Yiqing Luo was very clear on how big the ambition of secluded Darkness Palace was. In addition, there was the existence of this profound jade heart within her body. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness would never give up this chance. After all, if the Palace of Gloomy Darkness failed this time, there wouldn't be a third chance. Therefore, when things turned around, Yiqing Luo remained calm. However, what made Yiqing Luo curious was, he could ignore Yuhan's orders and forcefully order the undead corpse puppets to turn around and attack again. Who was the person who managed to snatch the authority to command the dead corpse puppets from Yuhan? From the looks of it, the person who came seemed to have a higher status than San Yu in the Palace of Darkness. Could it be the true mastermind of the Dark Nether Palace? Yiqing Luo's long and narrow eyes squinted in ridicule. A meaningful sneer flashed across his eyes. She lowered her eyes and curled her lips. It seems that someone in the Palace of Gloomy Shadows doesn't want you to live. The scene in front of him changed dramatically. Yu Ji and Yu Nu widened their eyes in disbelief. Now hearing Yiqing Luo's words, both of their expressions changed slightly. If one did not look closely, he probably couldn't tell. Yiqing Luo tilted her head. If Yuhan is unable to complete the deal between us, then I must abide by the deal between us. She raised the handle of the gourd flame fan. The dagger, stained with blood, shone brightly under the smoke and dust. Her smile became even more enchanting. Miss Yu Nu, which part of your body do you think I should start from? Dark Maiden's face turned pale with fright. You! How dare you? Yiqing Luo, if you dare to touch me, Yuhan, and Secluded Palace will absolutely not let you off. Secluded Palace doesn't even want your lives, so why would they seek revenge for you? Yiqing Luo had a "don't lie to me" expression. Yu Nu stared straight at the dagger in Yiqing Luo's hand. Don't mess around. Do you know who our master is? If you dare to touch me, you'll be slapping our master's face. Chapter 3391. Yu Ji and Yu Nu's faces darkened. Yiqing Luo, how dare you insult our venerable one? You're courting death. The respected revered, in Yiqing Luo's mouth, was scolded as a sinister rat. How could Yu Nu and Yu Ji accept this? They struggled and angrily tried to save face for their master. But when the dagger in Yiqing Luo's hand came close again, the Dark Maiden's body stiffened, and the indignant words she was about to say were stuck in her throat. Yiqing Luo still tilted her head as she gave an evil smile. It's just the truth, why get angry? You should know that we women can't be easily angered. If we are easily angered, we will grow old and ugly quickly. Speaking of which, both the dark forces and the Palace of Gloomy Shadows have been targeting me for such a long time. And I haven't even seen that so-called venerable of yours. Don't tell me. He's just a mouse hiding in the dark and giving orders? Ghost Woman's expression darkened. But she was worried that Yiqing Luo's hand would shake and accidentally cut her face with the dagger. Suppressing the anger in his heart, he did not dare to make a sound. Yu Ji pursed his lips tightly as he took a look at Dmo Xian beside him and then looked at the smiling Yiqing Luo. His expression turned ugly as he opened his mouth. You are not qualified to meet the revered one. It's just an inferior realm, there's no need for the venerable one to step in. Yiqing Luo's slender brows rose as she smiled again. Yes? What a pity. I'm afraid you won't be able to see if I'm qualified to see the little mouse you respect so much. She raised her head with a smile and looked at the tens of thousands of undead puppets charging back. Large groups of them surrounded them. The entire Jade Dome City was surrounded once again. Standing on the city wall of Jade Dome City, the smiles on the faces of the cultivators of the major forces were replaced with shock and disbelief. What was going on? Didn't these monsters retreat? Why did it suddenly rush back? Wait a minute, everyone shifted their gazes towards Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian's direction. In their hearts, all of them were anxious and uneasy. What should the Overlord and Madame D do when they are surrounded by the enemy's monsters? No matter how strong they were, facing so many monsters and disciples of Dark Palace, he would also be at a disadvantage. However, everyone's worries didn't spread to Yiqing Luo. Her expression was still indifferent, and her brows were also calm. A pair of indifferent eyes quietly looked in the direction of the Palace of Darkness camp. Beside the young girl, the tall figure of the man blocked the young girl completely. His purple robe fluttered even though there was no wind. The powerful and terrifying profound light surged around the man's body like raging waves, stacking on top of one another. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness did not dare to act recklessly. The atmosphere was tense and the two sides were in a deadlock. A clear, girlish voice rang out, "Since the Palace of Darkness has sent reinforcements, why do you need to be secretive? Could it be? Your Excellency is the little mouse that I was talking about?" The girl's voice was clear and sweet. His voice had almost reached the eardrums of everyone present. Then, a fiery red flame flashed in the sky. The girl carried a black-robed man and flew into the sky. Her figure was as light as a feather. Even though she was carrying a man, it didn't affect her movements at all. The young girl's figure froze in mid-air, and just as she started to descend. Clang! Chapter 3392. In mid-air, the red glow was like a blazing flame. It continued to spread out in the sky. Every single floating phoenix feather glowed brilliantly, extremely dazzling. That red steadily supported the young lady's falling body. Immediately following that, in mid-air, it spun in mid-air, sweeping out a billowing splendor. Amidst the dazzling profound glow, everyone saw the red-robed young lady standing on that huge red bird's back. The surging profound energy was like tidal waves as it dispersed around the young lady's body. Her single arm was holding onto a petite figure dressed in a black robe. Her gorgeous face was filled with smiles. "Yuhan, 1 incense's time is up. Although you didn't keep to our agreement. But I'm an honest and trustworthy person, so I can't learn your thick skin." She raised her voice as she laughed lightly. Her voice was filled with helplessness. However, if the smile at the corner of the young girl's mouth had been restrained, perhaps this helplessness was more convincing. "How dare you? Yiqing Luo, how dare you?" Yuhan's figure leapt up from among those 10,000 corpses and puppets, appearing in front of Yiqing Luo. His expression was sinister as his deep cold eyes stared deadly at Yiqing Luo. "Yiqing Luo, let go of Yu. I'll be your hostage." "Why do I need a hostage for?" Yiqing Luo waved her glower flame fan. That dagger which had slid out from the fan handle retracted and retracted at times. The dagger's edge flashed and retracted at times. She laughed lightly. "You're the one who violated our agreement first, so you should accept the punishment." I didn't." These words were almost squeezed out from the slits of his teeth. Yuhan's fists were clenched tightly as the veins on his forehead popped out. "I didn't regret at the last minute. But—" Saying this, Yuhan's voice paused. His fists clenched even tighter. His entire body's taut muscles could be seen clearly. Taking a deep breath, he stared at Yiqing Luo as he said word by word coldly, "The current situation, I can't control it." "Can't control it? What has this got to do with me? I only want results." The young lady's giggling laughter reverberated in the entire sky of Jade Dome City. The strong wind blew against the young lady's hair. Her hair was loose as her hair swayed, under the sky full of raging flames. It was as if it was plated with a layer of red light. The alluring young lady had a wicked smile on her face. She was like a ghost in a blazing flame, very bewitching. If one ignored the movements of her hands, This was indeed an extremely beautiful painting of a beautiful woman. Yiqing Luo's slender white fingers pinched the fan handle and shook it. The dagger shone with a sinister light. She gestured at dark girl's face and ear and clicked her tongue. How vexing, where exactly should I start? Yiqing Luo. Yuhan was infuriated as she howled hysterically. Immediately after, his profound chi surged and with a leap, he pounced towards Yiqing Luo's direction. "Oh, so scary," Yiqing Luo cried out exaggeratedly. The hand that was pressed against dark girl's face trembled a little. "Ah!" Yunu screamed. Yuhan, who was rushing over, suddenly stopped in her tracks after she let out a miserable shriek. His face was steely green. Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo blinked her eyes innocently as she smiled and shook her head. "Who asked you to scare me? I'm a person, my hand trembles easily when I'm afraid. When my hand trembles, I don't even know where this knife will cut." Chapter 3393. Yuhan clenched his fists so tightly that his fingernails had almost penetrated deep into his palm. The string in his mind that was stretched taut was forcibly suppressed by him. He took another deep breath and gritted his teeth as he spat out a few words. "Yiqing Luo, you're simply too much." Yiqing Luo's lips curled as she spoke in a light tone. "No choice. Who asked me to grab hold of your weakness? With a hostage in my hands, even if I bully you, what can you do to me? Or rather..." She paused and looked down at the man who looked like a god. She smiled and said, "You can also go and grab my weakness and use it to threaten me, right?" Yuhan. Damn it. If he was able to catch the Overlord, would he still need to be here talking nonsense with Yiqing Luo? Yiqing Luo smiled as her vision shifted back to Yunu's face. "How about this? I'll start from her ears." Saying that, she moved the dagger towards Yunu's ears. "You dare!" Yuhan roared in rage as the profound energy on her rose rapidly. At the same time, another low shout suddenly rang out, "Stop!" and these two words actually caused the surrounding air to tremble violently. That voice was extremely loud, like a copper bell, so thick that it could penetrate through everything in the world. Immediately following that, an even more shocking burst of profound energy, with a shocking speed, passed through the serene coldness and surged straight over. It was a strange, powerful, and majestic power. It made Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. The glower flame fan which was pressed against Yunu's cheek swiftly retracted. "Catch!" The moment her words ended, Yiqing Luo directly threw Yunu in her hands towards the sky as though she was throwing rubbish. Following that, her figure swept upwards as she retreated backwards swiftly. Lil Luo. At the same time when Yiqing Luo made her fastest reaction, Dmo Xian's worried voice was heard from behind. She retreated a few steps and bumped into the man's chest. Her waist was locked tightly by Dmo Xian's arm. The familiar sandalwood fragrance seeped into her nose. Yiqing Luo felt much more at ease. She had not expected. She had been on guard in the direction of the secluded palace but neglected other places. Actually, on this battlefield there was a third group of people. Just now, that voice of "Stop" sounded somewhat familiar. However, he couldn't recall where he had heard it before. Yiqing Luo nestled in Dmo Xian's arms as she shot her vision towards Yunu, who she had flung out earlier. In the instant that ghost girl was flung away, the terrifying murderous aura that had suddenly surged out suddenly disappeared. From this, it could be seen that the owner of that power had come for Yunu. As expected, she saw something in front of her. Ghost girl, who had been flung away, fell into someone's arms. That person was not Yuhan. Yuhan was still at least a dozen meters away from Ghost girl. At this moment, he was stunned on the spot, his face filled with disbelief. It was as if he was scared silly. The person who was hugging Ghost girl was wearing a black outfit and a black hat. A large black hat covered half of the man's face. From Yiqing Luo's angle, she couldn't see that person's face clearly. But Yiqing Luo had a very familiar feeling. This person looks very familiar. Netherworld, it's you? A surprised voice came from the side. Yiqing Luo was stunned. This name made her mind to recall that person whom she met when she entered the godless array and entered the 21st century. That person named Netherworld. It's him? Chapter 3394. Yuming hugged Yu as he lowered his eyes and stared at the terrified girl in his arms. Scarlet red eyes with a rare gentleness. He smiled. Yu, are you all right? The ghost woman's beautiful face was filled with terror and astonishment. Her pupils continued to contract, until Yu Ming's gentle voice rang beside her ear. She blinked her eyes and fixed her gaze on Netherworld's face. When she met Yu Ming's scarlet red eyes, Yu's pupils shrank as she screamed, "Ah!" She struggled and pushed Yu Ming with all her might. "Let go of Yu." Yuhan went up and stretched out her hand to grab Yu as she locked her in her arms. That action was extremely barbaric. Yu Ming's brows creased as he looked at his empty arms as his expression turned ugly. He stretched out his hand and was about to snatch Yu back. But Yu seemed to have found a place to belong when Yuhan got close to her. She hugged Yuhan's waist tightly as she cried out with a wah. She was badly frightened. No matter who it was, under Yiqing Luo's strange and horrifying threat, and under the situation where she was almost disfigured and had lost an arm or a leg, who could still remain calm? Yu Ming's outstretched hand froze in midair. After some time, he retracted it stiffly. Yuhan patted Yu's shoulder lightly as she raised her eyes and stared at Yu Ming coldly. "What are you back for?" Yu Ming didn't even look at her. Instead, he directly walked past them as he walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. That face, that pair of scarlet red eyes. Indeed, it was Yu Ming. Yiqing Luo. He called out Yiqing Luo's name as his scarlet red eyes glowed faintly. Yiqing Luo's lips curled. "Long time no see." On account of Ming Mirror, let go of Yu Ming was as straightforward as usual, without any intention of beating around the bush. Yiqing Luo laughed. "Yu Ming, after seeing such a scene, you're still so loyal to her?" She raised her chin as she looked at Yu and Yuhan, who were hugging each other in ridicule. Earlier when Yu saw Yu Ming, that terrified scream. The minute she saw Yuhan, she pounced into her arms. This comparison, Netherworld wasn't even a spare tire. However, Netherworld still had an expression that said, "This is my business, it has nothing to do with you." Yiqing Luo shrugged her shoulders. Similarly, the Ming Mirror is mine and it has nothing to do with you. You cannot use the Ming Mirror as a bargaining chip to negotiate with me. Yu Ming's face darkened. "That nether mirror is mine." Yiqing Luo smiled. "Now it's mine." Yu Ming clenched his fist. His red eyes were filled with coldness. "You are no match for the Palace of Darkness. With your strength and the help of Dizun, you don't need to get involved in the affairs of the Nirvana realm. You can live a safe and sound life. Why do you want to make trouble for yourself?" He raised his eyes and glanced at the representatives of the major forces on the Jade Firmament city wall. He sneered. "They have nothing to do with you. Whether they live or die has nothing to do with you, right?" Yiqing Luo's brows rose as she crossed her arms. "Are you trying to persuade the Palace of Darkness? These words, take it as repayment for bringing me out of that plane and back to the Nirvana realm." Yu Ming's expression was calm. "The Palace of Darkness is not as simple as you think." Yiqing Luo laughed softly. She lifted her leg and moved slightly. Her figure once again skimmed onto Qi Yan's back. She smiled as she looked towards Yuhan and Yu's direction and then looked towards a certain direction of the Palace of Darkness's camp. Chapter 3395. You're right. This group of people is indeed unrelated to me. I also have no obligation to help them. The expressions of the representatives from the surrounding forces changed slightly when they heard this. However, they could not refute, or bring out some noble sentiments to request Yiqing Luo to achieve the point of, the greater the ability, the greater the responsibility. After all, they couldn't do it themselves. To put it bluntly, they would unite and appear on the eastern continent. But for their own future, they could only join forces to get rid of Gloomy Palace. Only in the Nirvana realm could there be a future. Otherwise, after the Netherworld Palace succeeded once, it would eventually be their turn. As for Yi Qing Luo, it was exactly as Netherworld had said. With the D-Zune and the Imperial Palace, even if Yi Qing Luo didn't interfere in this matter, he could also live a carefree life. At this thought, everyone's heart sank. Hearing this, Netherworld's expression softened a little. I don't want you to die. What I said is the best choice for you. Yi Qing Luo raised her pink lips, her long and narrow eyes looked at him with a smile that didn't look like a smile. But, in this Nirvana realm, there are still brothers that I care about. She looked at the rows of extremely young faces standing upright on the city wall. That was the World Mercenary Group. Her smile became even gentler. In every continent, there are brothers whom I care about and I can't possibly ignore them just for my own freedom, so… Towards secluded Darkness Palace's conspiracy, I, Yi Qing Luo, will definitely interfere. Yu Ming's expression immediately darkened. Moreover speaking, Yu Ming, do you think that the Palace of Darkness will really allow me to be free and unfettered? Yi Qing Luo merely smiled as she looked at him. Yu Ming's expression turned slightly stiff as he stared at Yi Qing Luo in a daze for a moment. Yi Qing Luo continued to smile. Secluded Palace had never intended for me to be an outsider. Yu Ming lowered his eyes, unable to refute. Lastly, this Nirvana realm is guarded by my Xian. The Imperial Palace was the #1 palace in the Nirvana realm. Aren't you trying to ruin our Emperor Palace's reputation by creating this Tenin Palace? As the future mistress of the Imperial Palace, the Palace of Darkness and I are irreconcilable. Yi Qing Luo put on a serious look as she spoke, and immediately gave a big smile. So? No matter if it's for public or private matters, I must stand here. The Netherworld. He couldn't refute it, but he had to admit it. Whatever Yi Qing Luo said was the best choice from her point of view. Yi Qing Luo's brows rose as she sat on Qi Yan's back, smiling as she looked down at him. Tsk Yu Ming, you've finally returned to Nirvana realm from that place. Don't tell me you're still intending to be that rat lord's chess piece? Yu Ming frowned. His crimson eyes flickered. Also, you know that woman doesn't love you and doesn't have you in her heart, yet you still love her? Do you think that as long as you sincerely move her, one day she will see how good you are and jump into your arms? Yi Qing Luo propped her chin as her fingers touched her pink lips, as her smile became even more devilish. But, earlier when Miss Yu Nu saw you, it was as though she had seen a ghost. So I feel that you definitely have no chance. Yi Qing Luo. Yu Ming's crimson eyes seemed to be burning with fury as he stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. Chapter 3396. Yu Ming. Suddenly, a delicate voice came from his side. The flames all over Yu Ming's face instantly turned cold. Even his body slightly stiffened. Until that delicate voice called out softly, Yu Ming. Only then did he stiffly look towards the voice. He saw Ghost Girl raising her head from Yuhan's arms and looking at him with eyes full of grievance. The girl's eyelashes were still wet. Ghost Girl. Yu Ming spat out 2 words in a hoarse voice. I'm sorry. I didn't mean that just now. Ghost Girl's hands were still tightly grasping Yuhan's collar. Her voice was timid and somewhat aggrieved. Yu Ming's red eyes dimmed. His hands hanging by his side tightened a little. But his expression was still very calm. And his voice was still hoarse. I understand. It's okay. Ghost Girl pursed her lips. She was stunned by Yu Ming's it's okay, and didn't know what to say. She lowered her eyes and her head. From Yu Ming's point of view, Ghost Girl's head seemed to be leaning on Yuhan's shoulder, as if she was seeking comfort. Yu Ming's face darkened slightly. His clenched fists tightened even more. Ghost Girl was used to observing people's expressions. She could clearly sense the change in Yu Ming's mood, especially when it came to this spare tire who had grown up with her and was loyal to her. Her expression changed slightly, and she struggled out of Yuhan's arms. Yuhan frowned and was unwilling to let go. Ghost Girl gently pinched the back of his hand. She raised her beautiful eyes and gave him a warning look. Yuhan reluctantly let go of her hand. Ghost Girl slowly walked towards the direction of the netherworld. Her delicate body was so soft that it seemed boneless. She swayed as she walked, as if a gust of wind could blow her down. After getting close to Yu Ming, Ghost Girl raised her hand and hugged his arm. Her action was not considered to be crossing the line. She simply hugged his arm and said in a coquettish voice, "Yu Ming, I really didn't do it on purpose. Don't believe what that bitch said. We grew up together. You should know that I'm not that kind of person." "Not that kind of person?" Before Yu Ming could reply, a clear and resounding voice interrupted him. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at Yu Nu, as her long and narrow eyes squinted. No matter how one looked at it, this arc was extremely like a taunt. "Miss Yu Nu, do you think I said anything wrong just now? Don't tell me you don't love the netherworld? Aren't you using him as a spare tire? Or were you not so scared when you saw him that you didn't even dare to look at him?" The series of questions caused Ghost Girl's expression to turn extremely unpleasant. She hugged Yu Ming's arm tightly as she stared angrily at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo met Yu Nu's vengeful gaze smilingly. "Why? What does Miss Yu want to say?" Yu Nu knew that she wasn't Yiqing Luo's match at all. She gritted her teeth and averted her gaze. The expression on her face instantly became delicate and charming. She tightened her grip on the netherworld. Her breasts were soft against his arms. She opened her mouth delicately. "Yu Ming, don't listen to her nonsense. It's because I was frightened. You also know that I care about my face the most." She took the dagger and kept threatening to slash my face, to cut any part of my body. "I'm scared. I was scared and didn't realize that it was you." Not only did she explain how she was frightened when she saw Yu Ming's pair of red eyes earlier. Chapter 3397. Yu Ming's expression was very calm. Not much emotion could be seen. Hearing Yu Nu's explanation, he didn't know if he should believe her or not. He only shifted his gaze slowly onto Yu Nu. Then, bit by bit, he retracted his arm. Yu Nu's expression instantly turned pale. Her eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at Yu Ming in shock, as though she couldn't believe it. A loyal dog like Yu Ming actually took the initiative to retract his arm, as though he didn't want to have too much contact with her. How could this be possible? How could Yu Ming possibly give up on her? This must be that slut's doing. Yu Nu raised her head abruptly as she stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo, who was stared at for no reason. Yu Nu. Yu Ming's voice was very calm as he called out Yu Nu's name without any extra emotions. Yu Nu's heart trembled as she raised her head and met his gaze. She made the expression on her face become even more tender. "Yu Ming." Her voice revealed a tinge of grievance. Yu Ming looked at her as he spoke calmly. "Congratulations, you and Yu Han have a fruitful relationship. This has been your wish for a long time." "Yu Ming." Yu Nu was stunned. I and Yu Han. Together, aren't you happy?" Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes as she listened. Damn it. Wasn't this Yu Nu a villain? How did she suddenly change into the persona of green tea? Wasn't this White Lotus a little too white? She knew that Yu Ming loved her deeply. She was together with another man. Yu Ming would definitely not be happy. Did she need Yu Ming to reply, "very happy," before her White Lotus heart could be at ease? Pooey. Yu Ming didn't need Yu Ming to reply. Yu Nu would be at ease. Yu Ming stared fixedly at Yu Nu's eyes until Yu Nu's heart started to panic. Then she heard Yu Ming's voice. "Amen, indeed not happy, but this is your choice, I respect it." He smiled again as he raised his hand and touched his eyes. That scarlet red eye was sparkling with a demonic glint. "I'm originally a different species and can't always stay by your side. It's understandable for you to choose him. Netherworld's voice was still very calm. So, it's time for me to quit. His line of sight shifted to Ghost Girl's hands that were frozen in midair. He pursed his lips and explained, "We can't be like before. It's not good for us to be too intimate. But I've always treated you as my big brother." Yunu's eyes reddened. Netherworld shook his head slowly. "I don't want to be your brother." Saying that, he turned around and faced Yiqing Luo's direction. His expression was still so calm and indifferent. However, his crimson eyes were filled with endless forbearance and anger. He squeezed his eyes shut and forced himself to give up. Yiqing Luo, who was watching the show, sitting on Qi Yan's back. Naturally, she saw all of Shuang Fei's little emotions. TSK. This was a melodramatic sadomasochistic romance. I'm really full of complaints. However, compared to those so-called loyal dogs, Netherworld was a little more rational. At the very least, he knew how to let go. He also knew that liking was liking and they couldn't be partners who adored each other. Brother and whatnot, no chance. This was how a man should be. Yu Ming. Yunu was shocked by Yu Ming's action of turning around. Chapter 3398. After all, there was a person who loved her wholeheartedly and was willing to sacrifice his life for her. In her heart, there was more or less some pride and contentment. Moreover, she could ask him to do a lot of things without asking for anything in return, that she didn't want to do and didn't dare to let Yuhan do. Thinking of this, Yunu restrained the ruthlessness in her eyes. Tears immediately appeared in her eyes. She looked at Yu Ming's back with sorrow and grievance. We're still companions, aren't we? Companions? Yu Ming couldn't help laughing when he heard these two words. He curled his lips and his eyes were full of mockery. From the moment you threw me into that plane and ignored me for 10 years, we're no longer companions. He tilted his head. Half of his face revealed a bit of haze. I am an alien that was abandoned. After I returned from that plane, I decided to abandon all of you as well. Yu Ming. Yunu looked at him in disbelief. Don't tell me you want to go against the Venerable One? The Venerable One. Yu Ming chuckled. Does he still remember that I exist? Yunu opened her mouth, but she didn't know how to persuade him. Yuhan couldn't stand it anymore. She quickly stepped forward and domineeringly pulled Yunu into her arms. She said in a cold voice, since he doesn't know what's good for him, you don't have to persuade him anymore. If he wants to die, then let him die. Yuhan. Yunu raised her head, tightly pursed her lips and called out in a low voice. Yuhan hugged her tightly. He's a monster. The Venerable One threw him into that plane because he didn't want to see him again. Since he wants to betray the Venerable One, then let him bear the consequences of betraying the Venerable One. This has nothing to do with us. But, Yunu was still somewhat unwilling. Yuhan lowered her cold eyes and looked at Yunu. Don't speak for him anymore. He can't escape. Then, she lowered her head and moved closer to her ear. Who else do you think can surpass me and control the corpse puppets? Yunu's delicate body suddenly stiffened. Her eyes also widened at this moment. In the end, she didn't say another word. Yu Ming, whose back was facing them, did not hear Yu Ming's last sentence, which he deliberately lowered his voice. As for the rest of the conversation, he heard everything clearly. Monster? He was indeed a monster. Therefore, it was normal that he couldn't get the nether girl. He sneered and immediately strode in another direction. The undead corpse puppets and the disciples of the dark nether palace followed her footsteps and slowly moved to the side, opening up a path. Yiqing Luo, who was spiraling in the sky, instructed Qi Yan to dive downwards, blocking in front of Yu Ming as she raised her brows and laughed. Aren't you going to continue persuading me not to make a move on Yunu? You won't. Yu Ming glanced at her and answered indifferently. Yiqing Luo touched her chin. So sure. Although you said that you wouldn't spare Yunu for the sake of the Nether Mirror, you will definitely remember the Nether Mirror's kindness. Yu Ming spoke very calmly. Yiqing Luo, was she that easy to see through? She and Yu Ming didn't seem to be familiar with each other, right? After Yu Ming finished this sentence, he didn't look at Yiqing Luo's reaction as he walked past her and walked straight ahead. Do you think that you still have a chance to leave after appearing? Yiqing Luo looked at his back view and didn't ask Qi Yan to stop him. Chapter 3399. Yu Ming's footsteps paused slightly. Very quickly, he resumed his footstep. Yiqing Luo didn't say another word. She knew. Yu Ming was taking a gamble. Taking a gamble was a completely impossible possibility. Just as Yu Ming passed through the layers of dead corpses and walked out of the battlefield, suddenly, a burst of strong and majestic profound energy, like a sharp blade, pierced towards Yu Ming's direction. That sharp blade made of profound energy was as swift as lightning. The naked eye could only see a flash, disappearing in a flash. Yiqing Luo didn't go up to stop it, nor did she have any intention to remind him. She just leisurely leaned on Qi Yan's back to watch the show. Just at this moment, Yu Ming's body suddenly exploded with a burst of raging flame. Bam! In midair, there was an explosive sound of two forces colliding. With a leap, the netherworld leaped into the air. With a backhand, he struck a palm strike towards the direction where the sharp blade came from. TSK, this reaction is not bad at all. Yiqing Luo caressed her chin, smiling as she commented. Bam bam bam. Yu Ming struck a counterattack with his palm strike, like a sudden thunder explosion. That large group of dead corpses seemed as though they were blown up, flying out like a fairy scattering flowers. Very quickly, an empty space was blasted out. But the crowd's attention was not on Yu Ming's ability. But, in midair, stood a tall figure. That person was a man with a tall and robust build, dressed in a black suit, showing off the firm muscles on his body. His body was shrouded in a layer of black shield-like halo. The hazy black qi made his face blurred, unable to be seen clearly. Yiqing Luo's vision only fell on that person for a moment. Instantly, her heart suddenly shrank fiercely. It was as if a giant hammer had smashed into her heart. An unknown strange emotion spread from the bottom of her heart. Like fear, or like... She was resisting something. Her pupils constricted slightly. Ugly woman, what's wrong with you? Qi Yan sensed Yiqing Luo's emotions as he immediately asked. But he didn't hear Yiqing Luo's reply. Qi Yan twisted his long neck and saw Yiqing Luo staring blankly at the empty space in front of her. How troublesome! Qi Yan snorted impatiently, but his figure flashed and flew towards the direction of Dmo Xian. Before he even got close to Dmo Xian, a black shadow floated in front of him. The man's low and hoarse voice sounded in her ears again. Bite it. If he escapes, I will bring Lil Luo to have a taste of braised vermilion bird tonight. Qi Yan subconsciously opened his mouth and caught the shadow. Then, his body felt heavy. Qi Yan's eyes widened, and he found that what he was holding in his mouth was actually a person. A man called Yu Ji. It was one of the 4 sacred beasts, the vermilion bird. It actually let its noble mouth pick up a stupid human? Qi Yan was furious. Just as he was about to loosen his jaws and throw him out, he felt a chill run down his spine. But in her mind, the man's threat just now appeared inexplicably. Her bird body shook. Damn it! That scared the hell out of me. Forced by the Overlord's despotic power. Qi Yan still obediently bit Yu Ji, the blazing flame, lingering around the body burning. No matter who, cannot approach a step. After confirming that Yu Ji definitely couldn't escape. Chapter 3400. After Dmo Xian threw secluded silence to Qi Yan. Immediately he approached Yiqing Luo. Stretching out his arm, he took the dazed Yiqing Luo into his arms. A warm kiss fell on her forehead, dispelling the coldness from her body. Xian! Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered. Finally there was a reaction. Her fair little hand grabbed Dmo Xian's collar. That person... Dmo Xian held her little hand and gently squeezed it. His low, husky voice soothed her ear. That person may be the mastermind behind the secluded palace, but it's all right, I'm here. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath, stabilizing her trembling heart. This was the first time she had such a big reaction when she saw someone. That man. His body was emitting a kind of shocking and powerful aura. She couldn't control her own emotions at all. Even you feel that person is very strong, it can be seen that. That person is absolutely not as simple as someone from the Earth realm. Yiqing Luo's pink lips pursed tightly. I have already merged the power of 2 god weapons. When I saw him, I was shocked by his aura. Ah Xian, what level do you think his profound grade has reached? This is the lower realm. Even if he appears, he will definitely not be like in the upper realm, releasing his profound energy as he pleases. Dmo Xian hugged her petite body tightly, his broad palm caressing her back lightly. Even if he doesn't make a move, just standing there is a deterrent. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased slightly. Ah Xian, the people from the upper realm, one after another, and each one is more powerful than the other, don't tell me. The people from the upper realm really intend to not interfere? Dmo Xian's hand, which was encircling her petite body, slightly stiffened. Yiqing Luo felt her man's change and looked up at him, but met with the man's deep as the abyss eyes. That eyes were as black as ink. It was a depth that Yiqing Luo had never felt before. Ah Xian? Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered slightly, raised her hand, and touched Dmo Xian's eyes. Hearing her voice, Dmo Xian's pupils then fluctuated slightly. He met the girl's worried gaze and sighed. Actually, it's not that the people of the upper realm don't care, it's just that they can't. Yiqing Luo was stunned for a moment. Unable to control, what do you mean? Dmo Xian sighed again as he caressed her hair. Some things can't be explained clearly in a short time. I can only tell you that this war is a calamity that the Nirvana realm is destined to face. It is also your tribulation. The last sentence, Dmo Xian did not say it out. He lowered his eyelids, and the light in his almond-shaped eyes disappeared. He tightened his arms around the girl again. He increased his strength and pulled her into his embrace. No matter whose tribulation it was, as long as he was here, he would never let Lil Luo or be in any danger. Yiqing Luo buried her head in his arms and didn't continue to interrogate him. Dmo Xian's hesitation made her recall what happened earlier. Baisu told her about the news brought by Jun Qingwu from the upper realm. The power behind the Palace of Gloomy Darkness was from the upper realm. There were also people from the upper realm joining the Palace of Tenebrous Seclusion. Furthermore, there were countless powerful people working together with the Palace of Darkness. According to speculation, the people behind the Palace of Gloomy Darkness were influential people from the upper realm. So, Dmo Xian said, the people from the upper realm couldn't do anything about it? If this was really the case, then this Nirvana realm, could it really still be preserved? Chapter 3401. Don't think too much. Dmo Xian rubbed her head and softened his voice. This calamity will be ended by you. Yiqing Luo used her forehead to press against his shoulder. That person from Secluded Palace, I haven't even fought with him, and was already frightened by his imposing manner. The me in this state, can I destroy Secluded Palace's plot? Lil Luo or doesn't believe my words? Dmo Xian lifted her chin as he narrowed his peach blossom eyes. Yiqing Luo's gaze met with the man's. She saw the confidence in the man's eyes. She could not help but laugh. You are the great sovereign. How can I not believe what you say? That's right. Dmo Xian's slender fingers caressed her lips. You're everyone's spiritual pillar, everyone's spiritual hope. If you retreat, the entire Nirvana realm will also retreat, understand? Yiqing Luo was stunned as her vision subconsciously shot towards Jade Dome City's city walls. To say that I am the pillar of the western continent, the hope of the southern continent, is still acceptable, but to say that I am the light of hope of the entire Nirvana realm, isn't this too exaggerated? Dmo Xian lowered his head and captured her pink lip. Their lips and teeth intertwined. The man's low and hoarse voice faintly entered Yi Qing Luo's ears. It penetrated the eardrums and went straight to the heart. This is not an exaggeration at all, Lil Luo. You must believe in your own ability, and also believe in your own influence. Perhaps it was because the man's kiss was too warm that it warmed her heart. Perhaps it was the man's words that gave her the greatest affirmation. Just now, when he saw that person from the dark Nether Palace, the feeling of being shocked by that person's aura had completely disappeared. Right, she should believe in her own abilities. She should also believe in her brother's abilities. Losing without a fight was not her style. Just now, what was that momentary retreat in his heart? Was he really just scared by that person from the Palace of Darkness? Just as the two of them were whispering to each other, a calm voice sounded. The Venerable One has really put in a lot of effort. Even the earthly sovereign has personally come to the lower realm. When Yi Qing Luo heard this, her eyelashes fluttered. He glanced at the netherworld from the corner of his eyes. She could tell. Yu Ming's tone was still as calm as before. However, there was a hint of trembling within it. That's right, it was trembling. From Yu Ming's words, Yi Qing Luo was able to deduce a few points. The person from the Dark Abyss Palace was not the mysterious and powerful venerable that Ghost Hand Wuyo had mentioned. It was a man called the Earthly Sovereign. Earthly Sovereign? Why does this name sound so familiar? An opponent who could make Nether inadvertently reveal a hint of fear. It could be seen that the person called Earthly Emperor was a famous person with a very high status in the upper realm. The man who was referred to as the Earthly Sovereign stood with his hands behind his back and said in an imposing manner, "Yu Ming, you should know the consequences of betraying the Venerables." Yu Ming snorted softly. "At worst, I'll just die." Netherworld, you are still so naive." The Emperor of Earth shook his head and smiled contemptuously. Yu Ming was laughed at and ridiculed, but he didn't get angry. He just looked at the Emperor of Earth expressionlessly. His red eyes were as calm as still water. "Whether I am naive or not, this is not important. What's important is, Emperor of Earth, you are the Emperor of the Earth realm and control the entire Earth realm. If the Heaven realm and God realm find out that you knowingly broke the law and sneaked into the lower realm, what will the consequences be?" Chapter 3402. Yu Ming suddenly smiled. "I don't dare to interfere, but someone does." His vision pierced through the layers of people and looked at Dmo Xian. The Earthly Sovereign naturally looked over. It was just a glance. The Earthly Sovereign's face changed dramatically. His face was ashen and his eyes were filled with shock. After all, he held a high position and controlled the entire land realm. His reaction speed was also quite fast. He clenched his fist, coughed softly, and continued, "The Nirvana realm is destined to face such a calamity. Even if the Overlord is here, he must follow his destiny." Yu Ming continued to smile and said, "Really? Then I shall wait and see. I shall see whose side fate will stand on." Yi Qing Luo finally understood why the name of Earthly Sovereign sounded so familiar. She had heard Old Man Song mention it before. The upper realm was divided into the Earth realm, the Heaven realm, and the Divine realm. Every realm had an emperor who was in charge of it. The Earthly Sovereign was the sovereign of the Earth domain. It was no wonder that when Yi Qing Luo saw the Earth Sovereign, they would be intimidated by the imposing manner of the Earthly Sovereign. Yi Qing Luo was speechless. Even the Emperor of the Earth realm was ordered to descend to the lower realms by that so-called sovereign. How powerful were the Venerable and the people behind the scenes of the Dark Palace? But at this moment Yi Qing Luo was almost certain. Venerable One or the people behind the Palace of Darkness. Their power must be above the Earthly Sovereign realm. That meant the heaven realm and the legendary person from the god realm. This emperor also wants to know which side fate will stand on. The Emperor of Earth sneered and suddenly waved his sleeves. Attack! That one word seemed to be able to swallow mountains and rivers, shaking the heavens and the earth. The undead corpse puppets roared. When the disciples of the secluded Darkness Palace heard that this person was the Emperor of the Earth domain, their fighting spirit burned. He couldn't wait to show off in front of the earthly sovereign. Then, the earthly sovereign took a fancy to him, and brought him back to the land to be nurtured. The secluded Darkness Palace disciples rejoiced that they had joined the secluded Darkness Palace. Look, this dark nether palace is so awesome. Even the Emperor of the Earth realm could be called over to help. No matter how powerful that Lord Dizun was, it was impossible for him to kill Dizun. That was just a legend of the Nirvana realm. Compared to the Emperor of the Earth realm, he was nothing. The palace of gloomy darkness was burning with fighting spirit. But, on the other hand, the Nirvana realm's side was stunned by the current situation. Earthly sovereign? Emperor of the Earth realm? Even the Emperor of the Earth realm had interfered with the matters of the lower realms. How could they, a group of mortals, compete with the Emperor of the Earth realm? At this moment, everyone lost their will to fight. At this moment, a clear voice sounded. What are you waiting for? Let's fight. That voice was filled with dignity, making it impossible to resist. Then, a fiery red figure charged into the sky. With a flick of her finger, the devouring flame fan in her hand unleashed countless wind blades at the incoming corpse puppets. Everyone in the Nirvana realm looked at the young lady in shock. That figure was clearly petite. However, it was filled with boundless power. It inexplicably gave everyone a great deal of confidence. The boys and girls of the World Group regained their senses as they hurriedly leapt up and charged towards the battlefield. Fight! The profounders of our Nirvana realm aren't afraid of any outside powers. This is our home, this is our territory. Outsiders, get out of the Nirvana realm! Along with the shouts of these young men and girls. Only then did the people from the various powers react. Their dazed and fearful gazes gradually changed. Looking at the young lady who killed over 100 corpse puppets with a single wave of her fan. Chapter 3403. That's right. This was the homeland that belonged to them. Their territory. On what basis should they give it to the external forces? So what if they were from the upper realm? Could the upper realm bully the people from the lower realm? No. They would definitely admit defeat. The cultivators and soldiers from the major forces had their eyes reignited with a burning desire to battle. Smoke rose everywhere as the flames of war raged, and it was about to break out at any moment. Both sides fought, the ground shook, the dark clouds rolled, and there were bursts of thunder explosions. The dark sky added an austere aura to the battlefield. Blood stained the ground red, and the smell of blood rushed to the nostrils. On this side, the disciples of the Nether Palace, the dead corpses and the various forces from the Nirvana realm had started a war. Yiqing Luo's figure swiftly dashed towards the Earth Sovereign. At the same time, two huge battle pets appeared out of thin air beside her. One black and one white, the aura was majestic, attracting the surrounding heaven and earth's spiritual chi, rolling up waves of stormy waves. The Earth Sovereign had not expected that there would be someone from the lower realm who dared to take the initiative to challenge him. He squinted his eyes and gave an unfathomable smile. Young lady, don't be too self-righteous. Think that you can deal with that bunch of trash from the Nether Palace and you can fight with me. Just as he finished his words, the Earth Sovereign waved his sleeves. An incomparably powerful force swept out along with his sleeve. That chi wave collided with Yiqing Luo's attack. In the air, the chi wave collided violently. The people who were fighting around were forced to scatter in all directions by this chi wave. A large area of the battlefield had been emptied. The collision of this force made the Earth Sovereign's half-closed eyes suddenly opened. His eyes lit up a little. The profound wave dispersed. In front of him, A black and white huge body crossed in front of the young lady. A snow-white huge tiger. A black huge leopard. Its body was surrounded by swirling airflow. The young lady was safe and sound floating behind the two battle pets. Dressed in red, the flames were like fire. That pair of long and narrow eyes were flickering with a flirtatious red light. White tiger. And this mutated beast? The Earth Sovereign couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the two battle pets in front of him. The Earth Sovereign knew that the white tiger of the 4 sacred beasts had been contracted. But he didn't expect. The person who made the contract was the woman that the Palace of Darkness wanted to capture. There was also the black leopard. Although it looked like a leopard, it had 2 black horns sticking out of its head. Others couldn't tell. He was the ruler of the Earth Realm and had seen many things. How could he not recognize that the 2 pitch-black objects were dragon horns? It was a leopard with dragon horns on its head. Wasn't that a mutated beast? It was no wonder that he was able to block his attack. The eyes of the earthly sovereign flickered. It seemed that it wasn't unreasonable for the Palace of Gloomy Darkness to create such a calamity in the lower realm, regardless of the consequences, just for a little girl. At the very least, he didn't know anything. At the moment, he was fighting with the little girl. He felt the same way. There were too many surprises on this little girl. What a pity! The earthly sovereign's eyes suddenly turned cold. An even more majestic power swept out. His figure flashed as he closed in on Yiqing Luo and launched his attack. The speed of the earthly sovereign was extremely fast. After all, after the profound sky realm and above, the difference between the profound ranks was too obvious. Yiqing Luo had no time to react at all. The earthly sovereign had already appeared in front of her. The punch that came crashing down was powerful and tyrannical, and it was emitting a strong, profound energy. If it wasn't for Chi-Chi who bit Yiqing Luo's robe and quickly pulled her back. If that punch landed on Yiqing Luo. Chapter 3404. But that powerful energy created a remnant might which shocked Yiqing Luo. Borrowing Chi-Chi's support, Yiqing Luo stabilized herself. But her chest was still feeling stuffy. A fishy sweetness surged up her throat. Under Chi-Chi's support, Yiqing Luo stabilized herself. There was a trace of blood at the corner of her lips. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and wiped off the blood which was caused by the remnant might. A glint flashed past her pair of narrow eyes. The current Yiqing Luo, indeed. In everyone's eyes was the spiritual pillar, the light of hope. She was like a savior. The various powerhouses people saw Yiqing Luo retreating and throwing up blood. Their minds turned cold as their attention uncontrollably gathered on Yiqing Luo. They were very clear. Now the only one who could give Nirvana Realm a miracle was Yiqing Luo. If Yiqing Luo fell, Nirvana Realm, then there was no hope. Everyone clearly heard what the earthly sovereign said just now. This great battle was the predestined calamity of Nirvana Realm. And Yiqing Luo was the key to this calamity. Everyone's thinking and attitude made the World Mercenary Group's people angry and annoyed, but there was nothing they could do. Yan Xiaoyi couldn't hold it in as she kept the sickles in her hands as she stared angrily at those people whose battle power had plummeted because of Yiqing Luo's injury. You bunch of self-proclaimed seniors from the various powerhouses. Can't you have some face? Yan Xiaoyi used her profound energy to spread this round of cursing to every corner of the battlefield. The various powerhouses' representatives' faces sunk. They wanted to berate her back. But on seeing Yan Xiaoyi's the World Mercenary Group uniform, all their words were swallowed back. The World Mercenary Group, that was Yiqing Luo's mercenary group. No matter how angry they were, they had to give Yiqing Luo some face. The general of the East Billow continent commanded his soldiers to disperse the corpses and puppets in front of him to one side. He then turned his head and looked towards Yan Xiaoyi to smooth things over. Miss Yan, I know you're worried about Imperial Madam. Now is the crucial moment. We absolutely cannot have any internal strife. Everyone nodded their heads repeatedly and looked at Yan Xiaoyi and those young boys and girls behind her with a "why are you so insensible" expression. Yan Xiaoyi was angered to the point of laughing. Nirvana Realm's life and death situation, you bunch of old seniors, have placed all your hopes on a 15-year-old little girl. Do you think you guys really care about face? That's right. You guys are too shameless. If Kitty was my big sister, I wouldn't care about your lives. Kitty Lee puffed up her cheeks in anger. Anai Ruopan also stopped her battle as she walked behind Yan Xiaoyi and looked at those unfriendly expressions. This battle, perhaps it might really be Nirvana Realm's destined calamity, but it doesn't represent that this is Madame Qing Luo's calamity. Don't push all the pressure onto Madame Qing Luo. Someone in the crowd was unconvinced. She's so powerful, taming a saint beast, possessing a divine artifact, and dealing with undead puppets. Since she's so powerful, isn't it only natural for her to protect the Nirvana Realm? Yan Xiaoyi was so angry that she gripped the blade of the black scythe tightly. She couldn't wait to rush forward and slash one of them to death. Chapter 3405. Don't think that we don't know what you're thinking about. Yan Xiaoyi gave a cold harumph. If we lose this battle, are you going to push all the responsibility onto Qing Luo? To make Qing Luo become a sinner? Everyone's gaze evaded. How could that be? In fact, they were indeed thinking in this way. The crux of this battle was Yi Qing Luo. If they lost this battle, that would be Yi Qing Luo's responsibility. But these words, they naturally didn't dare to say it out. Don't think that everyone is an idiot. You're a bunch of shameless cowards. Placing your hopes on a 15-year-old young lady, I don't know where you get your face from, to claim that you're the representatives of the various powerhouses. Yan Xiaoyi was still berating them with righteous indignation. Suddenly, a yell interrupted her. Xiaoyi, that's enough. That voice was as cold as ice, but it was extremely dignified. Long Yunzhan walked slowly to the front of Yan Xiaoyi, blocking the few of them behind him. His azure blue eyes stared fixedly at the representatives of the various factions in front of him. His expression was indifferent as his tone was icy cold. Everyone, I'm sure you're very clear that this battle is no longer a small scuffle in Nirvana Realm, but it involves the invasion of the upper realm's external forces. I know that everyone here has a family. Today our battle is not only to survive, but also to prevent our family members from being invaded by the external forces, to not suffer. The reason why you're here, isn't it because you want to chase the external forces out of Nirvana Realm? The reason why you're standing here, isn't it because of your family, for your home, for our territory? Obviously, it was just an extremely calm tone. But unfortunately, it was able to easily ignite that unseen flame in the depths of everyone's hearts. As long as they met that pair of azure blue eyes, inexplicably they wanted to believe his words. This battle is not only Qing Luo's responsibility, not only are the World Mercenary Group's responsibility, not only your various continents and various powerhouses' responsibility. Long Yunzhan suddenly raised his book as his long sword pointed towards the sky. His imposing manner was like a rainbow. This is our Nirvana Realm's responsibility. Boom! A muffled thunder exploded in the sky. Long Yunzhan's figure charged into the battlefield once again. Fight! Fight for Nirvana Realm! Fight! Fight for our families and homes! Fight! The eyes of everyone in the World Mercenary Group also burned with fighting spirit. At this moment, suddenly, a resounding dragon roar resounded throughout the entire East Wave continent. Following that, a huge creature appeared out of nowhere in the pitch-black sky. The azure dragon's scales were overflowing with light and color, dyeing the entire sky. The huge dragon body circled the horizon. One could vaguely see a blazing figure floating within the dragon's body. This scene caused everyone's pupils to involuntarily widen. Shock, astonishment, and disbelief, all kinds of emotions spread. Then, another resounding dragon roar resounded. A huge dragon head emerged from the body of the spiraling dragon. Green dragon head, green dragon horn. The dragon whiskers danced in the strong wind. As the dragon circled and swam in the air, the huge Xian wave cracked piece by piece, and then repaired piece by piece. Dragon! It was a dragon! An enormous azure dragon. Was this also Yi Qing Luo's war pet? Chapter 3406. Each and every one of them stared unblinkingly at the azure dragon hovering in the sky. Their eyes were filled with envy. Their hearts were like dew after a long drought, rising a huge hope. The head of the four sacred beasts, the azure dragon's sacred beast? Earth's sovereign recognized the azure dragon at one glance. His majestic eyes glowed slightly as he stared at the azure dragon. Unimaginable! A girl from the lower realm not only subdued a white tiger sacred beast, but also the azure dragon became her battle pet. One must know, these four sacred beasts were once the battle pets of that person. As that person passed away, the four sacred beasts disappeared without a trace. Now they actually became the battle pet of a girl from the lower realm. What was the identity of this girl? That person from the secluded palace targeted Yi Qing Luo. Was it really just because Yi Qing Luo blocked his way? But Earth Sovereign had no time to continue to be shocked. Because the more shocking was yet to come. After Yi Qing Luo summoned the azure dragon, Qi Yan, Qi Qi and Qi Ju also soared into the sky and stood in front of the azure dragon. Several battle pets released their beast power. The majestic power shocked the four directions. This scene, even until a long time later, it was still passed down as a classic. Little friends, now it's our time. Yi Qing Luo's cold voice revealed a biting cold. The glower flame fan in her hand flipped over her fingertip. Streams of wind blades, like a celestial maiden scattering flowers, shot out. Just when those battle pets let out a beast howl in unison. A big battle was about to break out. They heard a clear voice coming from the crowd, "Me too!" Following that, a figure was seen flying towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. That figure seemed not to be afraid of the azure dragon's surrounding, sweeping airwaves. Instead, he fearlessly welcomed the wave of qi. What made everyone surprised was that figure was completely not affected by the pressure released by the azure dragon, and directly rushed to the front of Yi Qing Luo. The appearance of this person also made Yi Qing Luo somewhat surprised. When she met that pair of green eyes, Yi Qing Luo was even more shocked. Before she had time to ask, how did he rush forward? Yi Qing Luo felt her heart fiercely tremble, as if something was about to be stripped out from within her profound heart jade. The feeling of being stripped away was extremely painful. Yi Qing Luo's face turned pale as she raised her hand and pressed it against her chest. In the next instant, a green pearl the size of a fist emerged from her chest. The green pearl shone with a cold luster. Yi Qing Luo was stunned. That was the soul pearl that contained the half-soul of the black tortoise. The soul pearl seemed to have its own consciousness as it flew towards the young man before it. As soon as he got close to the teenager, the soul pearl entered the youth's forehead. A jade-green light enveloped the youth's body. After the soul pearl fused with the young man, he slowly opened his eyes. The jade-green resplendent eyes stared deeply at Yi Qing Luo as it said word by word, "I, the sacred beast Black Tortoise, is willing to sign a life and death contract with Master Xian Gui. If you do this, Yi Shi." Yi Qing Luo knitted her brows tightly and wanted to say something. However, the young man raised his hand and held her hand. A drop of blood overflowed from her fingertip and slowly entered the young man's palm. At the same time, an extremely intense jade-green light blossomed from their bodies. The person in front of her was Xian Gui. That Xian Gui, who had an extremely good relationship with Miao Yi in the Miao Gu family. Ever since she got the soul pearl, Yi Qing Luo could almost confirm that Xian Gui was the black tortoise. Only, looking at the good relationship between Xian Gui and Yi Chapter 3407. Who would have thought Xian Gui had actually formed a blood contract with her in such a way? Could it be that he didn't know that after forming a blood contract with her, if she went too far away, as her battle pet, he had to stay by her side? Miao Yi was the holy maiden of the Miao tribe, and also the tribe leader. He had to stay in the Miao tribe to manage the affairs of the Miao tribe. It was a contract, but this meant that he and Miao Yi could no longer stick together like before. However, all these, Yiqing Luo didn't open her mouth to inquire about Black Tortoise's strength. The power surging within her body made her profound jade heart feel as if it was gradually expanding, as if it was about to burst open. Oh, a muffled groan escaped her mouth. This sound was clearly very soft. However, Long Yunzhan, who was in the midst of battle, inexplicably heard this groan. His azure-blue pupils suddenly contracted. He abruptly looked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Then, he quickly moved in that direction. Leader! Tong Ziqing had been following beside Long Yunzhan, and on seeing him rushing towards Yiqing Luo's direction, she immediately pulled him back. Where are you going? Long Yunzhan's face sunk as he didn't reply. His icy cold eyes stared unblinkingly at Yiqing Luo's direction. You can't go over there. Tong Ziqing didn't let go. Qing Luo is in pain. Long Yunzhan frowned as he struggled free from Tong Ziqing's hand and walked past her. Calm down. Tong Ziqing stood in front of Long Yunzhan once again. If something really happens to Qing Luo, the Overlord will not stand by idly. If you rush up now, you will be injured. It was said that people who fell in love were stupid. Tong Ziqing now completely believed this sentence. Yes, Yiqing Luo indeed looked like she was in pain. It floated in the air, shrouded in green light. Her beautiful face was faintly discernible under the green light. Vaguely, one could see her slightly furrowed brows and the expression of pain on her face. But could Long Yunzhan not see that around Yiqing Luo's surroundings, the spiraling green dragon, the erect white tiger and that flying vermilion bird, as well as the Shiju which was standing right in front, defending the surroundings? If he rashly rushed over, he probably wasn't even close to Yiqing Luo. They would have been devoured by the beastly aura released by the battle pets. Didn't they see that the earthly sovereign over there didn't dare to act rashly? He liked Yiqing Luo that much. Did he love her so much that he didn't even care about his own life? Tong Ziqing suppressed the pain in her heart as her hands tugged onto Long Yunzhan's sleeves as her voice carried a tinge of begging. Qing Luo is really fine. Look at the Overlord. He's still standing there looking at Qing Luo. That means that Qing Luo is really fine. I just don't wish for you to get hurt. The woman, who had always been cold, was now speaking to him in a pleading tone. Long Yunzhan didn't know why, but he felt a part of his heart violently contract. His tightly clenched fists gradually loosened. His vision slowly shifted from Yiqing Luo's direction to Dmo Xian, and finally, onto Tong Ziqing's face. The woman's delicate face looked a little embarrassed. His eyes were slightly red. There was a hint of bitterness in his voice. However, just as he was about to investigate further, the woman's eyes quickly returned to their usual coldness. Long Yunzhan's heart inexplicably twitched again. He subconsciously held the woman's hand. I got it. Chapter 3408. However, it was wide enough to wrap around her hand. Tong Ziqing was stunned, and her eyes were filled with disbelief. She moved her gaze stiffly. In the end, it stopped at the hand that Long Yunzhan had taken the initiative to hold her hand. She was so happy that she was about to burst into tears. This was the first time that Long Yunzhan had taken the initiative to hold her hand. It was different from the past. It was either dangerous or instructive. Instead, he was really holding her hand. Moreover, he had really dispelled the idea of going over to Yiqing Luo's side. Does this mean she was in his heart? Actually, he already had a little bit of status. Tong Ziqing's eyelashes trembled slightly. She lowered her eyes. Her thick and long eyelashes cast a faint shadow on her face. She didn't allow Long Yunjian to go over to Yi Qing Luo's side. Not because he was jealous of Yi Qing Luo. Or perhaps he wasn't willing to see Long Yunjian putting in so much effort for Yi Qing Luo. It was the onlookers who saw things clearly. Compared to Long Yunjian, she was just calmer. Because they knew that in this world, the person who cared about Yi Qing Luo the most wasn't there the world group, but the Overlord. If Yi Qing Luo was really in pain and something really happened to her, the Overlord wouldn't just stand there, staring at Yi Qing Luo without blinking. Therefore, she couldn't let Long Yunjian take the risk. Most importantly, the Overlord's jealousy did not make any sense at all. If Dizhu knew about this, Long Yunjian's feelings towards Yi Qing Luo, I'm afraid, His Majesty's jealousy will cause a great commotion again. In the meantime, DMO Xian, who was originally standing on the original spot without moving, suddenly flashed and speedily skimmed to Yi Qing Luo's side. This scene caused Long Yunjian, who had just given up on the idea, to narrow his eyes and look in that direction. Qing Luo. Long Yunjian spat out 2 words hoarsely. A trace of worry surfaced in Tong Ziqing's eyes. This time, she did not stop him. Instead, she let go of Long Yunjian's hand. She was certain that Yi Qing Luo was fine. It was all because of the Dizun's attitude. But Long Yunjian didn't act like what she expected, immediately charging towards Yi Qing Luo. Instead, he raised his sword and pierced through the disciple of the Palace of Darkness who was sneaking up on Tong Ziqing. Then he pulled Tong Ziqing into his embrace and kicked away all the enemies surrounding him. Tong Ziqing's face crashed into his chest. He could smell a fresh, ocean-like scent. She was a little dazed. What are you waiting for? Let's get rid of these trash from the Palace of Darkness first. Long Yunjian's voice came from above. Tong Ziqing blinked her eyes in confusion. When she came back to her senses, only then did she realize that Long Yunjian had already brought her to a safer place. The man released her waist and touched her forehead with his ice-cold palm. What's wrong? Are you hurt somewhere? Tong Ziqing hurriedly took a step back. I'm fine. She didn't know why her heart was thumping madly. She almost couldn't suppress the wild beating of her heart. She went past Long Yunjian and looked towards Yi Qing Luo's direction as she spoke in a low voice. Aren't you going over? Qing Luo she. The Dizun is there. Even if I go over, it's of no use. Long Yunjian replied calmly as he turned his azure blue eyes and looked at her. But if you're not feeling well, then take a rest first. Don't force yourself. If something happens, everyone will be worried. Saying that, Long Yunjian turned around and prepared to return to the battlefield. Chapter 3409. Tong Ziqing was shocked by Long Yunjian's earlier words. Seeing that he was about to leave, she instinctively tugged on his robe. Group leader. I'm fine, I want to fight together with you. The moment Long Yunjian turned back. Coincidentally, from Yi Qing Luo's side, the emerald light was shooting in all directions. Tong Ziqing tugged on his robe as she raised her head. Against that emerald light, Long Yunjian could almost see the lady's exquisite face, that creamy white skin and those thick and long eyelashes. Inexplicably, looking at the lady tugging on his robe, it was so cute that it made him a little dazed. On the other side, when DMO Xian rushed towards Yi Qing Luo, he was blocked by the surrounding beast aura and the majestic profound energy fluctuations. His brows creased slightly as his peach blossom eyes swirled with light. His imposing manner shook as a strong imposing manner spread out from his body. His purple robe fluttered along with the strong wind. The next moment, he had already broken through the surrounding fluctuations and got close to Yi Qing Luo. At this moment, the young lady who was wrapped in the emerald light had a pair of scarlet-red eyes, which had already been shrouded by the emerald light. DMO Xian's brows knitted even tighter. A thick aura kept revolving around Yi Qing Luo's body. The imposing manner was extremely ferocious. This was the sign of advancement. If Yiqing Luo was able to advance successfully this time, then she would directly break through to the Sage Profound realm. Sage Profound. That was the legendary realm. Yiqing Luo could be said to be the first cultivator in the Nirvana realm to break through to the Sage Profound realm. But, when he saw that flowing airflow, Dmo Xian's expression became increasingly grave. He stared intently at Yiqing Luo, looking at the young lady's devastatingly beautiful face, which had already surfaced a thick layer of emerald light. He no longer hesitated. His long arms stretched out, directly passing through the surging majestic airflow around Yiqing Luo, directly hugging her waist. In a split second, a terrifying force like a sharp blade cut Dmo Xian's four limbs. That twisting and twisting pain made Dmo Xian's complexion turn pale by a few shades. What is the Overlord doing? Looks like Madame D is about to advance. Why does the Overlord want to stop Madame D from ascending? What's going on? Countless onlookers were shocked by the majestic energy ripples in the sky. They involuntarily focused their gazes on the two figures in midair. Logically speaking, but now Madame D was able to ascend. If he were to fight with the earthly sovereign, he would have more confidence. Why did the Overlord stop Madame D from advancing? He was right. Dmo Xian's action was to stop Yiqing Luo. The man's purple robe fluttered in the air. The powerful dark force danced wildly. It kept colliding with the jade light on Yiqing Luo's body, squeezing and colliding with each other. No matter how that jade light formed into a sharp blade, it twined around Dmo Xian's body. Dmo Xian had not let go of Yiqing Luo's waist. While the two forces were suppressing each other, Dmo Xian suddenly raised his other hand. Purple light swirled in his palm, pressing down on Yiqing Luo's chest. Swish, encircling her body, that surging majestic energy violently pushed against Dmo Xian's palm, which was pressing down. His purple robe fluttered, his jet black hair flew. The two forces intertwined and collided, the momentum rising steadily. The entire East continent started to shake violently, tremble. Sand and hurricane surged violently. Chapter 34:10. The tearing pain in her body and a kind of extremely oppressive energy kept squeezing her heart, making Yiqing Luo's slender brows crease tightly into a bundle. Her delicate body struggled slightly. Her enchanting eyes, which were covered in red light and green light, blinked absent-mindedly. Lil Luor, can you hear me? She could vaguely hear the man's deep and mellow voice in her ears. Her frown deepened. His consciousness was sometimes clear and sometimes blurry. She felt that her body was like a balloon that was being inflated, constantly expanding. It was as if it would explode in the next instant. The pain of swelling pain. Her consciousness became increasingly blurry. In particular, there was a force in her chest that was constantly approaching her. It was just like someone wanted to break her body. She resisted. He could not help but struggle. However, that power was pressing on him even tighter. Her eyes were half opened, and a face that made her feel at ease appeared in front of her. That pair of shimmering peach blossom eyes were as deep as the sea as he looked at her worriedly. She held her breath and her eyelashes were moist because of the pain. She suddenly trembled and said, Xian, when he spat out these two words. Yiqing Luo had already exhausted all her energy. Little Luo. The voices in his ears became clearer. The scent of sandalwood entered her nostrils, clearing her mind a little. Yiqing Luo took a deep breath and suppressed the tearing pain all over her body as she tried her best to open her eyes wide. When she saw that familiar face of Dmo Xian, her eyes reddened and the gentleness that a young girl should have appeared in front of him. Xian, as long as you can hear me. Dmo Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Yiqing Luo suddenly felt a dull pain in her chest as she groaned. Lowering her eyes, she saw the man's palm hovering over her heart. Powerful, profound energy gathered in his palm. whereas the air waves that lingered around her body were resisting Dmo Xian's approach. This is, Yi Qing Luo naturally knew clearly what the tearing pain in her body and the dense heaven and earth spiritual qi around her represented. It was like a whirlpool, lingering around continuously. It was a sign of advancement, an opportunity to break through. Right now, she was at the 9th rank of the Sky Profound Realm. He wanted to break through to the Sage Mystic Realm, the Legend Realm. This opportunity was hard to come by in 1,000 years. Now, after forming a blood contract with the Black Tortoise, she seized this opportunity to break through. But Dmo Xian's actions. He was obviously trying to stop her from breaking through. Dmo Xian wanted her to give up this rare opportunity to break through? However, if he gave up this time, next time it would be very difficult. He seemed to have noticed the confusion on the girl's face. The man did not explain. He only used his obsidian eyes, resplendent and deep, to stare deeply at her. His tone was extremely serious. "Lil Luo, do you trust me?" "I do," he answered without hesitation. How could he not believe it? In this world, the person she trusted the most was Dmo Xian. Dmo Xian's thin lips curled up slightly, as his jet-black hair fluttered wildly on his shoulders, further accentuating that peerless countenance of his, adding a tinge of treacherous evilness. "Trust me and leave it to me." His voice was cold and calm. He was so firm that it was impossible for anyone not to believe in him. Yi Qing Luo's thoughts moved as her charming eyes were slowly filled with warmth. She forcefully pulled the corners of her lips as she revealed a faint smile. "All right." Her words had just ended. She slowly exhaled a breath. Chapter 34:11. Dmo Xian gazed deeply at the young lady's alluring face. His eyes were filled with pampering and tenderness. Then, his pupils congealed, solemn and firm. Whoosh! His entire body shook. The profound energy in his palm grew stronger and stronger. Yi Qing Luo's slender brows were tightly knitted together in pain. Her breathing also became heavier. But this time, she had no intention to resist. In her mind, the man's low whisper echoed in her ear. "Do you believe me? Believe. Believe him. Leave everything to him." Body and mind gradually relaxed. That gush of airflow which was lingering around Yi Qing Luo gradually subsided because she had no intention to resist. Dmo Xian's palm covered Yi Qing Luo's chest. Hu, just at this moment. From Dmo Xian's palm on Yi Qing Luo's chest, endless hurricane, and the profound energy waves, rolled violently, wantonly intertwined. The vast profound energy was like a huge tsunami, billowing. Ugh! Yi Qing Luo felt the pain in her body. She groaned in pain, as if there was some power twisting her heart, entering her profound jade heart. "It's all right. It's all right." Just at this moment, a gentle male voice rang beside her ear. A warm kiss slowly fell on her lip. Perhaps this wisp of warmth was like a spring that flowed through the limbs and bones of his body. The intense pain and swelling sensation in his body gradually dissipated along with the warmth. Her consciousness gradually recovered. Her long eyelashes fluttered a few times and slowly opened her eyes. Coincidentally, she met the man's deep peach blossom eyes. "Ah Xian." She opened her mouth, her voice was still a little hoarse. Dmo Xian rubbed her hair. "It's all right." Indeed, it was all right. All the discomfort in her body was gone. Even the feeling that he was on the verge of breaking through to the next level was gone. But she didn't open her mouth to ask. She was clear. No matter what the reason was, Dmo Xian would do this. There must be a reason for it. Dmo Xian lowered his eyes, looking at the obedient young lady nestled in his arms. There was a complicated look in his eyes. However, her heart was filled with sweetness and happiness. His little Luo heir really trusted him. He couldn't help but hug the girl in his arms tightly. However, this sweet atmosphere could not last for long on this battlefield. When Earth Sovereign saw Dmo Xian appearing, His expression turned extremely ugly. In his eyes, a haze that was hard to be noticed appeared. That high and mighty look, totally not putting Yiqing Luo in his eyes, had suddenly collapsed at this instance. Ever since Yiqing Luo started summoning her war pet, everything was going in the exact opposite direction that he had envisioned. White tiger, vermilion bird, azure dragon. Now Black Tortoise had taken the initiative to appear, taking the initiative to set up a life and death blood pact with Yiqing Luo. A girl from the lower realm had formed a contract with one of the 4 great saint beasts. This was simply too fantastical, okay? Even if this Yiqing Luo was someone from the lower realm. But none of her battle pets were to be messed with. If he wasn't careful, he would become food for the battle pets. What surprised him even more was Dizun. He didn't just appear in the lower realm. And that intimate attitude between him and Yiqing Luo. Anyone would be able to tell what the current situation was. At this moment, the earthly sovereign finally understood why the Palace of Darkness would choose him to help the Palace of Darkness. When Earth Sovereign's vision passed by Dmo Xian, the haze and fleeting hatred in his eyes gradually became obvious. Chapter 34:12. Overlord. A sneer full of ridicule came out from the mouth of the Earth Sovereign. His voice was sharp and harsh. The two who were still hugging each other frowned and looked over. Yiqing Luo clearly saw the ruthlessness and hatred in the eyes of the Earth Sovereign. Hatred? Yiqing Luo was stunned and looked sideways at Dmo Xian, asking in a low voice, "Ah Xian, there is a grudge between you and the Earth Sovereign?" Dmo Xian just glanced at the Earth Sovereign lightly. "I don't remember." Yiqing Luo. He was after all the Earth Realm's sovereign. Why did his tone sound like the Earth Sovereign was an insignificant Tom, Dick, or Harry? But it was not clear what was Dmo Xian's identity in the upper realm. But from the attitude of Bai Su and the Huangfu family in the heaven realm, Dmo Xian must be rich and powerful in the upper realm. He was also respected by everyone. Even if he was the emperor of the Earth realm, there should be very little interaction between them. Then why did the Earth Sovereign look at Dmo Xian with hatred? "I didn't expect that. Overlord is actually living in the lower realm after so many years." The Earth Sovereign squinted his eyes with a superior attitude. The place where Yiqing Luo and Dmo Xian were standing at. It was the place where the Dark Abyss Palace disciples were surrounded by the corpse puppet. The distance between them and the Earth Sovereign was only about 20 to 30 meters. Behind the Earth Sovereign were the 5 new dead corpse puppet. Even though there were 5 terrifying battle pets floating in the sky above them, Su Lingwei and Su Lingwei didn't know what to do. But the Earth Sovereign expressed that he could try to see whether the Dark Palace had more people or the speed of the battle pets was faster. Listening to the Earth Sovereign's words, Yiqing Luo's slender brows knitted tighter. Sure enough, there was some interaction between the Earth Sovereign and Dmo Xian. The Overlord came to the lower realm because you like a girl from the lower realm, or because you want to break the Celestial Master's divination? The Earth Sovereign didn't care whether Dmo Xian responded to him or not. He continued to say, "This tribulation in the Nirvana realm is destined, even the Overlord can't break it." His tone was slightly gloomy. A cold, murderous intent surfaced in the depths of his eyes. "If Dizun insists on defying heaven and changing fate, I can only offend you." At the end of the day, Earthly Sovereign was just looking for a suitable excuse to strike at Dmo Xian. Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the man who had a calm expression, as though he didn't put the Earth Sovereign in his eyes at all. He guessed right again. Dmo Xian's status in the upper realm. Indeed, he was even more honorable than the Earthly Sovereign. This was the first time she had seen someone provoking Dmo Xian in such a manner after knowing his identity. He seemed to have seen the look in the girl's eyes that she was watching a good show. Dmo Xian's eyes flashed with a doting tenderness. His large palm gently caressed the girl's head. When he raised his head to look at the Emperor of Earth, His face was covered with a layer of frost. His peerless face was as cold as ice. It exuded a strange and horrifying aura. When his shimmering peach blossom eyes swept over the Emperor of Earth, a bone-chilling, killing intent assaulted his face. The Earth Sovereign's heart trembled. Under that intense gaze, he was totally unable to restrain himself and took 2 steps back. This step back made his face suddenly turn livid. Chapter 34:13. Just as the sinister voice fell, countless cultivators dressed in black and white suddenly rushed out from all directions. Those profound practitioners had majestic auras, and they emitted piercingly cold auras. The moment they appeared, all directions were shrouded under their imposing manner. When the members of the various powers in the Nirvana realm saw the appearance of this group of profounders, they were intimidated by the pressure that was being emitted from their bodies to the point that even breathing became slightly difficult. No matter how much they couldn't understand the current situation, they couldn't. They were very clear. This group of people were not from the Palace of Darkness. Not those corpse puppets. Not the disciples of the Palace of Darkness. But the army of the earthly sovereign from the Earth realm. The royal army of the Earth realm. When the superpowers realized this, their faces turned as pale as a sheet. No one had expected this. This war between the Palace of Darkness and the Nirvana realm would cause the earthly sovereign to come personally, would cause the royal army of the Earth realm to be mobilized. This batch of royal army of the Earth realm had about 200 people. Compared to the forces of the 4 continents of the Nirvana realm, 200 people was not considered a lot. But the number was not important. The important thing was, these 200 cultivators were the royal army of the Earth realm. The Earth realm, the place that the Nirvana realm called the upper realm, the place that they yearned for. Each and every one of them was at least above the sky profound realm. The existence of 1 against 100. Just these 200 from the royal army of the Earth realm. It was enough to give them a hard time. Not to mention, there were tens of thousands of corpse puppets and the densely packed disciples of the Palace of Darkness. After seeing this scene, even with the help of the Overlord. Furthermore, there were also the 4 sacred beasts that shocked everyone present. The people of the major forces were scared out of their wit. Looking at those ants from the lower realm, who were in such a panic, the earthly sovereign's heart was greatly satisfied. To him, this group of people from the lower realm were just a bunch of trash, a bunch of ants. Destroying the Nirvana realm was just to give these resources to the more powerful people to enjoy. Especially DMO Xian wanted to protect the Nirvana realm for a girl from the lower realm. Therefore, he had to cooperate with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness to destroy the Nirvana realm. Let DMO Xian have a taste of how painful it was to lose something important. Earth Sovereign's sinister eyes suddenly shot towards Yiqing Luo. He smiled coldly and rushed forward. Kill! One word fell. The royal army of the Earth realm attacked from all directions. Powerful profound energy covered the skies of the entire East Wave continent. The royal army moved. The Palace of Gloomy Darkness was even more confident. Originally because of DMO Xian's attack, because of Yiqing Luo and the 4 sacred beasts' oppressive might, their morale was instantly ignited. As expected of the Palace of Gloomy Darkness, even the Emperor of the Land Domain could help the Netherworld Palace. Moreover, there were so many experts of the Sky Profound Realm fighting alongside them. It was the right choice for them to join the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. The morale of Abysmal Palace burned higher and higher. The major forces of the Nirvana realm were losing their fighting spirit. This scene made Yiqing Luo's expression sunk slightly. Something tightened around his waist. The man hugged her as he flew away from the earthly sovereign's attack. Yiqing Luo patted the man's hand lightly as she gave him a light smile. DMO Xian only took a look at her as he raised his palm and rubbed her head. There was no interaction between the two of them, but just one look was enough to understand the other party's meaning. Chapter 34:14. DMO Xian loosened his arms and looked at her with a gentle gaze. Be careful, I will always be here. The man's low and magnetic voice floated into her ears like a feather, stirring her heartstrings. No matter how dangerous this battlefield was, it was impossible for them to survive. At this moment, Yiqing Luo also blushed under the man's loving gaze and his hoarse voice. This man really would never let go of any chance to flirt with her. Yiqing Luo raised her blushing face and gave him a fierce stare. Then she left his arms. With a leap, she leaped into the air and landed on Qi-Qi's back. If she continued to be flirted with by Dmo Xian, this solemn battlefield was about to become frivolous. Nirvana Realm's morale and fighting spirit had been completely obliterated by the 200 over royal army. She had to be a good example. After all, in the eyes of Nirvana Realm's people, she had become the Messiah. Even if she was unwilling to be this Messiah, for the sake of Nirvana Realm, she had to bear the responsibility of this title. The Earth Realm's royal army were all Sky Profound cultivators and above. Sky Profound, Earth Profound, Profound Profound, Yellow Profound, which were commonly used in Nirvana Realm, although there was only a difference of one word. However, the difference in strength between the two of them was worlds apart. One must know that in the entire Nirvana Realm, excluding those experts who had concealed their profound rank, there were no more than 20 Sky Profound Realm sovereigns that were known to the public. But now, there were more than 20 Profound Sky Supremes from the Earth Realm who were aggressively charging over. And they were the kind of well-trained experts in the army. The strength of both sides could be said to be worlds apart. But, so what if it was worlds apart? Since the people from the upper realm, and that balanced historian, did not intend to intervene in this disaster of Nirvana Realm, then, on her side, she could totally disregard the balance of Nirvana Realm. Since Nirvana Realm was destined to be a disaster, then, she would turn this calamity into a chance for the Nirvana Realm to be reborn. Didn't her Xian say so? He would always be here. As long as he was here, she could go all out without any scruples. The opponent was strong. Strong enough to make her blood boil. It had been a long, long time since he had felt this way. Yiqing Luo's lips curled into an evil cold arc. His eyes were burning with the desire to fight. Riding on Qi-Qi, Lin Sanjiu circled the skies above the battlefield. The devouring flame fan in Zhang Xian's hand danced excitedly like a fire elf. The profound energy of the 9th grade of the Sky Profound Realm instantly enveloped the entire battlefield. It also forcefully suppressed the oppressive might released by the royal army. He flipped the glowing flame fan in his hand. Raging flames and wind blades shot out wantonly like a celestial maiden scattering flowers. Brothers, we must win this battle. If we fight, we might die, and the Nirvana Realm might be destroyed, but if we don't fight, we will definitely die. The Nirvana Realm will also be destroyed. Our relatives in the other continents will also be tortured to death because we surrendered without a fight. If we fight, we might still have a slim chance of survival. We might still have a possibility. Brothers, let's fight to the death. He had to bring out his strongest strength and display his ultimate strength. Defend the territory that belongs to us. Yiqing Luo's clear voice, along with the profound qi, spread wave after wave. Her voice was impassioned and shocking. Chapter 34:15. Yiqing Luo's target was the Earth Sovereign. Her gorgeous face was calm. Her fingertips moved and the glower flame fan was closed. The red profound light turned into an illusory giant dragon. Under the pressure of the 4 sacred beasts, it flew away at lightning speed. The Earth Sovereign looked at Yiqing Luo, who was about to fight with him with the sacred beasts. He couldn't help but sneer. Little girl, if you had broken through successfully, perhaps I could have more fun. But unfortunately, the Overlord doesn't seem to be willing to let you advance. Along with his scornful voice, the profound qi around his body flew around recklessly. It also caused his robe to flutter in the wind. The majestic qi seemed to be mocking Yiqing Luo's overconfidence. Little girl, in my opinion, The Overlord is deliberately using me to kill you. The Earth Sovereign stretched out his arm slowly and a long sword appeared in his hand. That long sword was extremely imposing. It was as if he could gather all the air around him. Yiqing Luo's pink lips rose with a casual sarcastic smile in her eyes. Earth Sovereign, are you trying to sow discord between me and Xian? Since you are so confident in yourself, do you still need to use such despicable means? The Earth Sovereign's face sank, holding the long sword high. With him as the center, the hurricane rolled like billowing waves. All the imposing manner was condensed on the long sword. He waved the sword. The terrifying profound light rolled up the sword wave. The surrounding air also began to distort violently. This strike was full of vigor and vigor. Yiqing Luo's eyes changed slightly. Immediately her fingertips swept, the glower flame fan opened and the profound chi condensed. The vast profound chi burst out. She moved and jumped up from Chi-Chi's back. Immediately bringing up a hurricane, she met the sword waves of the Earth Sovereign. At the same time, in the hurricane, Yiqing Luo quickly changed the glower flame fan, refracted numerous wind blades, like a fairy scattering flowers, crossed the sword waves and went straight to the Earth Sovereign. Seeing the Earth Sovereign's figure was covered by the red wind blades. However, he heard a voice full of mockery, insignificant tricks. As soon as he finished speaking, Yi Shiwen's eyes widened. The Earth Sovereign moved his palms. The sword waves and the palm wind accompanied each other. He leaped up and floated in the air. The long sword stroke was swift and fierce, totally not giving Yiqing Luo any leeway to parry. Little girl, don't worry. I won't let you die so easily. Aren't you the woman that Di Zun cares about the most? If this emperor captured you alive and tortured you bit by bit in front of him, making you wish you were dead, would he feel pain? The earthly sovereign's slightly crazy voice was sharp and harsh. He gave a sinister smile as the gaze he shot towards Yiqing Luo was filled with a haze. Definitely. He would definitely suffer. This emperor wants him to taste this kind of pain. As the rage of the earthly sovereign increased, his attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Yiqing Luo knew very well. The gap between him and the earthly sovereign was huge. If it wasn't for the 4 sacred beasts and Shiju by his side, she was afraid that she would not be able to withstand a single strike from the earthly sovereign. The explosion of air waves caused her heart to feel somewhat oppressed. Little Luo Dmo Xian had been paying close attention to Yiqing Luo's actions. The moment he saw Yiqing Luo's face turn pale, his heart suddenly trembled as his figure turned into an afterimage, speedily charging towards Yiqing Luo. Chapter 34:16. If it was against those disciples of the secluded palace or the undead puppets, to Yiqing Luo it was just a small matter like cutting cabbage, but Earth Sovereign was after all the controller of the upper realm. His strength was not something that Yiqing Luo could contend against. Dmo Xian had planned to settle the Earth Sovereign himself from the beginning, but he still let go and let Yiqing Luo fight with the Earth Sovereign. This battle was not to let Yiqing Luo fight against the strong ones, so that she could improve her actual combat experience, but it was for Nirvana Realm, to build momentum for the cultivators of Nirvana Realm. The appearance of the Earth Sovereign and the appearance of the royal army had made the cultivators of Nirvana Realm lose all their fighting spirit. As the savior in everyone's mind, Yiqing Luo must use her own actions to give everyone fighting spirit and hope. So Yiqing Luo must fight with the Earth Sovereign. Only Yiqing Luo could fight on par with the Earth Sovereign. Only then could the profound practitioners of the various forces in the Nirvana Realm see hope. Even if he let go and let Yiqing Luo build momentum. But Dmo Xian was still paying attention to Yiqing Luo's condition. Seeing Yiqing Luo was shrouded by the violent profound energy released by the Earth Sovereign, Dmo Xian's speed was faster. Just as he was about to get close to Yiqing Luo and help her to block the strong airwave, suddenly a cold wind brushed past. A figure stood in between him and Yi Qing Luo. A cold and gloomy voice rang in his ear, "Overlord, your opponent is me." Dmo Xian's pupils shrank, his sleeves fluttered and the explosive airwave flew away like a surging wave. He stretched his body and got close to Yi Qing Luo again. But the person seemed to be waiting for him here deliberately. Deliberately, to stop him from helping Yi Qing Luo. "Overlord," I said, "your opponent is me." The gloomy voice sounded extremely strange. Along with the voice of the person, the cold profound qi was also surging violently. Dmo Xian was not unfamiliar with this aura. Not long ago they had just fought. Ghost King. Dmo Xian squinted his peach blossom eyes, his gaze was sharp. The person, wasn't he the one he met in the illusory land? Ghost King? Unexpectedly, he had not left Nirvana realm. At this moment, in front of them, which was also the place where Yi Qing Luo and Earth Sovereign were fighting, suddenly a burst of violent, profound light burst out in all directions. Profound qi shrouded the entire area. The young girl's fiery figure was also enveloped by it. It was as if he had been swallowed by a huge bloody mouth. Lil Luor. Dmo Xian's shimmering peach blossom eyes seemed to be plated with a layer of thousand-year-old frost. At the same time, the dark force around him shook. Violent air waves spread throughout the entire space. The hurricane roared fiercely. Standing in front of Dmo Xian, Ghost King's black robe was fluttering in the strong wind. His facial features were distorted by the force, and his face was filled with pain. The Ghost King gritted his teeth, and a thick Xian qi swept out from his body to resist. But this resistance, in front of Dmo Xian, was simply too weak. Dmo Xian merely glanced at him coldly. The Ghost King's body seemed to be sent flying by an invisible force. His eyes were cold as he dashed towards the dark radiance in front of him. "Overlord, your opponent is me." The Ghost King, who was flipped over, wiped off the blood on the corner of his mouth, coughed lightly and rushed forward again.